Welcome to another reaction stream. We are looking ahead to double/blank Gameweek 25 and talking about all the games that have happened in Gameweek 24, which was actually a single game week, and it was kind of a differing type of week for many of us. I've seen quite a few in the comments already talking about a pretty impressive week, and I think one of the main factors was the captain. So those of you that went with Rashford, fair play. I was very close to contemplating that, and I thought it wasn't really too much separating both Haaland and Rashford, but fair play to those of you that went for him. In the end, I stuck with Haaland. He missed some glorious chances, and to be fair, don't mind too much. I think at this point in time, Haaland captaincy haul isn't really going to do me too much good. If anything, it's going against him, and if the likes of Rashford can outscore him as well. But let's get into your questions, as always, and you can see my points on screen. 53 with Andreas Pereira coming on, and I've gone down, well, a bit. I think from 90k to 95k. Before today's games, I was back to where I was before, around 77,000, but the captaincy, I think, was a big issue for me this week, and I've also got some issues going forwards. You know, if I want to get the likes of Trent, Robertson, Salah, or maybe another Liverpool asset, I also need to think about which players I'm going to get rid of. These blank Gameweek players like Trippier and Shaw, and that could also affect me for Gameweeks 26 and 27. So there's a lot to talk about, but let's get straight into everything you're going to go into. And also be sure to drop this video a like and also subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers. That'd be greatly appreciated. Welcome, Liverpool, really good with that. Brought in Trent, 12 pointer from that, and now his ownership's only going to rise with that double game week. Casual Rashford captain with Bruno chipping in too. Bruno was man of the match. He was just an absolute beast today. I think he created 9 chances, and he has had these performances before, like the one against Spurs at home. He done it again, and honestly, he was well deserving of the 3 bonus points, even if Rashford got the 2 goals. Welcome, Samuel Lee. Rashford captain, but still a red arrow. Yeah, that is a bit surprising. I'm guessing you might not have had a few other kind of key players like Saka or Odegaard potentially. I mean, to be fair, there's not like one root reason in terms of if we did well or not, but I think Rashford versus Haaland captain is there's definitely a huge swing in Gameweek 24. With that, Kane assist up to 79 points. Really good stuff. Green arrow, but Rashford captain. Yeah, good stuff. 81 with the Kane assist. Yeah, I think that's the only kind of saving grace from today. Didn't gain too much from Rashford. If anything, I actually went down because of that. His effective ownership was around 100%. And Luke Shaw was on for a bonus point, but this time I think he was pipped by Lindelof. But either way, I think it was Kane that was the only one really that gave me something a bit different. I think his effective ownership is actually quite similar to Shaw nonetheless, though. Welcome, Alex. Yeah, I'm a bit similar to you. 56 points this game week, but a small green arrow to 4.4k. There you go. That's pretty good still. And at least you're maintaining it, even if your week overall is a bit underwhelming. And now comes the big double/blank game week before we go to more blanks like 28 and 32. Not to mention all the doubles we have coming up very soon as well. What else do we have? Welcome, Travel WMP. Good to see you. Let's see what else we have. 60 points this week, still pretty decent, and maybe around your rank manish it would have been a green arrow like it was for Alex. 62 points finally after going against Haaland so many times has paid off. Dylan, you should have gone with me. Well, to be fair, like I said, it was a really close call for me, and City had the chances. You know, on another day they bury them. How many times is Erling Haaland going to literally miss from right in front of the goal? And honestly, I don't really mind too much. I'd rather captain Haaland and jinx him, even though it's not really the same thing, than going for Rashford, and Haaland does really well, to be fair. But yeah, in the end, that's what happened, and I'm not really too fussed about it. Yeah, the points are updated. I think he probably used livefpl.net. 72 of all bonus points, really good stuff. 62 of Haaland captain, so quite a few decent scores flying around right now. Wow, I had Nick Pope in goal. That is really unlucky. I mean, that was a brain fart if you've ever seen one. I mean, what was he doing? And now, the biggest consequence of them all is that Newcastle will not be without, well, they're going to be without him and Dubravka against Man United in the Carabao Cup final. So that means Karius will be in goal. Let's wait and see. Hopefully he does really well, but I just don't see it. And also now, Spurs have pipped them to 4th place for the time being. So things aren't looking too good for Newcastle at the moment. And Bruno Guimaraes has definitely been a big miss. I had 110 last week, 42 this week. You can't always do well. That's obviously the moral of the story, and you can't cover every single asset. You did extremely well last week. This week, a bit underwhelming, but still a long way to go. 62, yeah, good stuff. I've seen a few 62s going around. Gutted I went against my gut and captain Haaland and not Rashford. Yeah, I'm maybe a bit surprised that Rashford's effective ownership was a bit higher than I expected, but I will show you very soon. In terms of top 10k captains, it is a bit, Haaland was still the overwhelming favourite. But in terms of those around our rank, maybe, because of Rashford's form, they simply just put the armband on him. And Leicester were looking pretty good recently, but still shipping a lot of goals. They were dominating for the first 20 minutes, but after that, and United scored that first goal, United played really well. I brought in Trent and Tarkowski for Game Week 25. We'll swap Mahrez to Maddison in Game Week 26. I like that. I'm looking to do something similar. Potentially also bring in Salah in for Mahrez now, especially with Mahrez being benched in Game Week 24. I always said this would be a concern. If he played against Nottingham Forest, I would have expected a benching against Bournemouth. I got 53 points too. Bruno, only good thing, had an awful week. We live and learn, and obviously, really, the only regret I have is maybe not going for Rashford captain, but honestly, I mean, look, you can't do well every week, and we've got a big blank/double coming up. I think some people will be using the free hit as well, and that could be very interesting too. 65 points, I think that's pretty good, to be fair. I wouldn't really be that displeased with it, unless you got a massive red arrow somehow, which I doubt. Rashford will get 16 points overall, including bonus points. He's getting 2 bonus. Would you do a -8? Kane, KDB, Shaw to Darwin, Salah, Trent? Tough one, but I think I would. I mean, Liverpool are suddenly looking decent, in the last 2 games. I was very surprised to see them play so well against Newcastle. I think if Bruno Guimaraes had played both games against Liverpool, it would have been a different story. Of course, I'm not saying they would have lost or anything in Liverpool, but maybe they were a bit fortunate in that regard. And it's no coincidence that Newcastle have only lost 2 games this season, and both were without Bruno Guimaraes. But yeah, I still think Darwin, Salah and Trent are worthwhile for this double game week, considering that Shaw is going to blank, Kane's facing Chelsea, and Kevin De Bruyne might be benched anyway for the Champions League. So I think it is pretty decent. To be fair though with Tony, he's been... I get what you mean. Recently he's been inconsistent since the World Cup, but before that, I have to say he was on a really good run, and he's still obviously a really good asset. He was a bit fortunate against Arsenal to get a 9-pointer, but he's always a nuisance to the opposition defenders. Morning, Dylan. Do you think it's time to cash in on Trippier? I still think it's a great option long term, despite Newcastle having a bit of a dip. Once Bruno Guimaraes is back, I think Newcastle won't keep clean sheets every week, but I think they'll get quite a few until the end of the season. They've got a good fixture run after the Man City game. So I'd still like to keep him if possible, but I think if there's ever a time to sell him, it is now. He blanks, then faces City, but around Game Week 27 or maybe after 28, you'd probably want Trippier back in, because I think he's going to start scoring points again, especially against Wolves at home. Welcome, Kev Mac. Good to see you. Thank you, Andian. I appreciate that. Can move early on Nunez. Yeah, if you're going to be priced out and you're absolutely set on getting Nunez, then fair enough. I think it might be worth doing an early transfer, but I'm still not completely convinced about Nunez. He is a bit of an injury doubt now. Heading into Game Week 25, I think he'll be fine, but still something to think about. You've got Jota and Firmino also there. So, if Nunez... there's any chance of him aggravating an injury, they're not going to risk it, and he could even miss out one of the games coming up in 25, which would obviously not be ideal. But yeah, I think he's still a decent option for this double game week. Welcome, Sonny. Doing well. What about you? 5 weeks, Green Arrow. Good stuff. I had a bit of a similar run until maybe 2 weeks ago or even last week. After that, things have maybe slowed down a little bit, been getting some red arrows, but good to see some consecutive Green Arrows there for you. Bueno out for me. Don't care about double game week. Possible replacement. Yes, and it's going to be frustrating, his minutes. And in terms of players to replace him, I think maybe Tarkowski. I still like Kilman, but when you look at the double, I think Everton might have a better chance of a clean sheet in that game against Aston Villa at home than Wolves do against Fulham or Liverpool away. So even though I think Wolves are a better team than Everton, I probably would consider Tarkowski. He's also got more attacking threat, but it's quite a close call. I don't think either of them are that great, to be fair. Yeah, Ben Leno has been excellent. I think you mentioned him in the last stream, and another 11-pointer. I wasn't expecting it. I thought Brighton would score, and they had a few disallowed goals as well. But yeah, Leno's been excellent since the World Cup. Worth keeping Nketiah? I still think it's worth keeping him. According to some algorithms, he's second in terms of the highest predicted points of any player. I think the only one that's higher is Salah. We'll go through that very soon, and also in the deadline stream as well. Good stuff, Lingani. Yeah. And that goes to show that even if you don't go with the right captain, so to speak, you still get a pretty good score if the rest of your squad just chips in and does the business. I wonder which players you had to get 75. I certainly wish I had that this week, but still, fair play. It's a good score. KDB to Mo and Trippier to Robertson because I can't afford Trent. Well, yeah, you don't want to get into a -4, -8 or -12 even to get Trent over Robertson. Even though I prefer Trent, I don't think it's worth that. So that's completely fine. I think it's a good set of moves for you. I'd do the exact same in your situation. You could also consider Joe Gomez for the time being, which Aranya talked about in previous streams as well. For the time being, obviously, you've still got Matip and Van Dijk. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he was dropped in one of the upcoming games. But with Konate still out, I think it's as good a time as ever to play Joe Gomez and buy him in for this double game week. Salah to De Bruyne or Patterson to Tarkowski. The one with the high upside would be Salah to De Bruyne. So, well, the other way around, De Bruyne to Salah. So I would do that. Yeah, I'm actually considering it a bit more this week because I also don't want to put myself in too much of a pickle for Game Weeks 26 and 27. Ultimately, I could wildcard very soon, even in Game Week 27 or 28. So yeah, it is an interesting one. I actually don't mind that too much. Obviously, I never did, but I'm warming up to that idea a bit more as we get closer to the deadline. I've had Rashford captain and Bruno my team yet, and United are looking good. Of course, they maybe had a bit of moments of fortune in the beginning of the game, but they weathered the storm, and Bruno Fernandes in particular looked really good, and Rashford has been the most informed player in the world, arguably, since the World Cup. Is Gomez nailed? I think for the time being, he will start both games in 25, which is what you mainly want him for. Is he going to be nailed beyond that period? I'm not so sure. But I think for the time being, the answer would be yes. But in terms of all the Liverpool defenders, Trent, Robertson, Gomez, Van Dijk, Gomez is the most likely to drop down to the bench in one of these Premier League games. Mahrez is not worth the hassle. Well, to be fair, though, with Mahrez, I was quite happy with his haul against Villa last week. Got a 12-pointer there. 14 points overall in Game Week 23. He'd done the job for me. Now I'm considering selling him. Yeah, Gakpo is worth a consideration, but I'd honestly rather go to Trent, Robertson or Salah. I'll talk about this later in the week with some of my videos. I'm still not too convinced about Gakpo, despite him obviously impressing in the last two games with the goals and assists, but still some doubts about him. Didn't make the 60 minutes this time round as well. But if you can't afford Salah, I can understand if you were to go for Gakpo. I'd still try to find a way to get Salah, though. Iwobi or Tete, the Brazilian? Probably, that's a good question. Probably Iwobi. Dylan, Messi or Ronaldo? I think anyone that knows me will know my answer. For me, it's Messi, and quite clear on that stance as well. Maybe, obviously, nationality and all that plays a part, but yeah, I think Messi. Are you thinking of getting rid of Shaw ahead of Game Week 25? Yes, and also Trippier, even though I'm not too keen on that. I think Trippier can do really well in 26 and 27. But yeah, Luke Shaw could also blank in Game Week 28. That's very likely. So as a result, I might do that. So it's going to be interesting to see which defender I get rid of this week. Do I bring in Trent? Do I bring in Salah? Do I bring in both? And if so, what do I do? Which striker do I get in for Kane to fund those moves? There's a lot of different avenues for me, and I've got 2 free transfers, which does help me a little bit, but not entirely. 68 points, good stuff. Mahrez or Gakpo? I still prefer Mahrez long term, but for this double, you obviously have to back Gakpo. And also, is Mahrez going to start in Game Week 25? I'm just not too sure. And if he does, there's no guarantee he does in Game Week 26 or 27 either. Yeah, and as for Liverpool Gomez, we touched on him earlier. I think he's a decent option for the double game week. I think he'll start both games, so he's a decent option. Mahrez to Gakpo for a -4. I'll be honest, I'm not really that happy about that transfer. Obviously, it's not a bad idea, and Gakpo should start both games in the double, but I'm not a big fan of that -4. If it was Salah, definitely, but Gakpo, I don't know. It's just my personal opinion. I couldn't bring myself to do that, I think. Obviously, we'll see what happens later in the week as well. What to do with Akanji, because I'm already on a -4. Worth doing Akanji to Tarkowski. I'd only do that if you have, not a full 11 and you need that extra player. Otherwise, you could just play someone like Andreas and that's completely fine, to be honest. But yeah, Tarkowski's worth a hit, I guess. I mean, tough one, because if Akanji starts against Bournemouth, I could see him scoring a similar amount to Tarkowski, where the only clean sheet I'm expecting from Everton in the near future is Aston Villa at home in 25. I don't expect one against Arsenal or in 26 or 27 per se. Nketiah, Bruno and Shaw to Darwin, Odegaard and Trent for a -4. Yeah, I think so. Quite standard. Bruno and Shaw obviously looking really good at the moment, but at the same time, they blank. And obviously with Nketiah, he's been off form. I think I would keep Nketiah, not get in Darwin, but then again, I think the reason why you're doing that is to bring in Odegaard. And if that's the case, and you need to do that to get in that Arsenal midfielder, I would do it. But at the same time, I think the main move for you is Shaw to Trent, which is a really good move. Kane, Mahrez to Nunez, Bruno for a -4, says Daniel. Yes. Well, Bruno, no, because he blanks in 25. Otherwise, I would like him as an option. And also, don't forget, he'll probably blank in 28 as well. So no, I wouldn't go to Bruno Fernandes, not right now. It's a bit too late for that. Trippier to Robertson or Rashford to Gakpo? Good question. I'd rather do Trippier to Robertson right now. I think that's the best move for you. Nunez or Trent? I'd say Trent. I think the bonus points is what settles it for me. Best free Liverpool assets to have other than Salah? I'd say Trent first. Then it's really close, but basically it would be Robertson and Nunez. And if you can't afford, one of those defenders, I would also recommend Joe Gomez at 4.9 million. But yeah, those would be my top three. Your opinion on Ward-Prowse? He's on penalties and free kicks. Well, we always knew he's on free kicks. He's the best free kick tech in the world, arguably. Him and Messi are always up there. Yeah, I mean, he's always a decent option because of that, but I still think there are better midfielders in the game, and that's why I haven't really considered him this season. Of course, he's a decent option. He should get, consistently 120 plus points every season, but at the same time, I'm still very concerned about Southampton in general, despite their big win yesterday. And obviously, there's an over-reliance on those set pieces, which he is very consistent with. But at the same time, I think there are better midfielders. Best free Liverpool players. Okay, yeah, you retract the comment. I think you saw my answer. Darwin to Nketiah -4 and Bueno to White -4. Darwin to Nketiah from -4. Not sure about that. Honestly, I don't think I'd do that. If anything, do Bueno to Kilman or Tarkowski for free, or even Joe Gomez, if that's what you can do. I don't think I'd do that -4. Out, Shaw or Trippier for Alexander-Arnold? It's a close call, and I'm looking to do something similar myself. I think I'd rather keep Trippier. I still think he's the better defender, an FPL option. I also see Newcastle keeping more clean sheets, and at the same time, United have the Carabao Cup final, of course, now, which they'll put a lot of focus on, the Europa League, and especially if they beat Barcelona and go through. I think the Premier League might, I don't know, I'm not saying Luke Shaw be rotated, but the others around him could, and I think there could be a bit of uncertainty and less clean sheets as a result. And not only that, they could blank in Game Week 28. So I'd rather keep Trippier if you can and sell Shaw. It's a difficult one, Tech. I'll be honest, I haven't finalized anything, but one thing I am considering is getting Salah and also bringing in some budget defenders like Joe Gomez. But I would also like to bring in a Trent at the moment, considering his form and the bonus points potential. And it also, especially considering the fact that I might wildcard very soon. So having a kind of short-term option like Trent with a high ceiling could be very beneficial, especially with a recent slump for me recently in the last 2 game weeks. Welcome, Harry. Would you sell De Bruyne ahead of Bournemouth to get Salah? Yes, I would, because I wouldn't be surprised if De Bruyne would be benched against Bournemouth. A bit underwhelming against Nottingham Forest as well. So yes, I would sell him. Show us what you would do in your team's transfers. I'll do that for the team selection video. There's no point doing that right now, of course. I've talked about it, what I could do briefly, but nothing set in stone. Welcome, Dave. I'm doing well. What about you? I would actually like to sell Nketiah, too unreliable, and Jesus back soon. Yeah, I can understand that. And I think the main plus point to selling Nketiah is to free up the Arsenal slot to get Odegaard or Saka in midfield. But otherwise, I'd probably keep him in most situations. Next week, Kane to Nunez, Lewis to Trent, and Bruno to Fernandes. What do you think? What Fernandes is that? Bruno to Fernandes? I'm guessing it's Salah. If that's the case, then yeah, I think all those transfers look really good, and I do the same thing. Honestly, no. I'd rather captain Saka or Odegaard. And Salah's the only player captain over Saka or Odegaard this week, I think. Tarkowski, Salah, Nonto, Robertson, Gakpo, Watkins. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're saying, Living Legend. Bruno to Salah and Shaw to Kilman for free. Yes. And you could also consider Tarkowski or Joe Gomez instead of Kilman. Would you keep Patterson or swap to Tarkowski? Probably swap, because I don't expect Patterson to start both games, but I wouldn't do it for a hit. I think that would be too risky. Transfer duo of Trent plus Gomez, or Trent plus the likes of Tarkowski, or another double gameweek defender not from Liverpool. Despite Liverpool's improvement in the last 2 games, I wouldn't double up on their defence. I think that's a bit too much. I'd only do that on a free hit, but not, with 26 and 27 in mind as well. So, honestly, I'd rather do Trent and Tarkowski. Captain Saka or Salah? At the moment, I am favouring Saka, but, of course, with Liverpool's recent performances, I'm also more open to the idea of captaining Salah once again. For this game week only, of course. Rashford to Mahrez? No, makes no sense, because I know Rashford blanks in 25, but you'd want him back in 26, 27. And not only that, Mahrez could be benched once again in 25, and I don't see him starting every single Premier League game over the next 4. So I'd rather go to another midfielder instead. Saka, Odegaard, Salah, and a few other midfielders like that. For some Tarkowski, best budget defenders. I don't think he's a great option, and I think there's a good chance of a clean sheet against Aston Villa at home in Game Week 25. I think that's the game where you could expect a haul. But in the other games like Arsenal and the ones in 26 and 27, I wouldn't be that convinced. I'm looking to get him in myself, but I also wouldn't be too optimistic about returns in the future as well. Confused on Trent plus Gakpo or Salah plus Sarabia. I mean, honestly, I don't like Sarabia as an option, but at the same time, I also don't like Gakpo too much. I think Salah and Trent will be the ideal ones. Of course, you can't get both. If I had to pick one, it would be Salah, because I think that has the highest upside, and you could also captain him over Saka or Odegaard, which could be a bit of a differential as well. Let's see what else we have. Free hit this week. I'm considering it. I always said it's a good time to free hit for some people because it's a mixture of blanks and doubles. I think the free hit really is perfect for that kind of game week, but it also depends on your situation. I got a green arrow of one place. That is unprecedented. Jesus. I mean, do you call that a grey arrow? I'm not even sure. But I mean, you'd rather go up than not, so it's not too bad. Mings to Gomez, yep, I think I would. Just bear in mind that Gomez won't be nailed for the rest of the season, especially when Konate's back, but it's a good transfer for now. I have 9 players. Should I free hit or -4? I don't think it's worth a free hit necessarily just to get to 11 because you've already got 9. I'd rather -4, but it also depends which players you're bringing in, which players would you have on a free hit compared to your normal team. So it's kind of a difficult question to answer when you're considering all the factors, but ultimately I would -4 with some assumptions in mind. Nketiah and Bruno to Watkins, Darwin and Saka. Yes, I would do that. I think Saka's arguably the best captaincy option in 25. You'd want to go with him. And I think Watkins has been looking really impressive recently. 4 games in a row with a goal. But I still don't trust Aston Villa or Watkins necessarily. Having said that, I'd probably do that and go for Saka and maybe either Darwin or Watkins, depending on your situation. Well, we already did UCL fantasy videos and stuff. Like I said, I might put a poll out and see if people want to see another kind of stream, a different kind of stream, or substitutions and stuff, but that's the only thing really that you could expect potentially this week. But yeah, basically as we get close to the deadlines, I'll be doing limitless wildcard team selection videos and then the deadline stream on the day of the deadline. Yes, of course, I would do it. I probably would. I wouldn't be surprised if De Bruyne is benched against Bournemouth. -8 to get Saka in. Depends who you get rid of. I'm guessing it's a United player or something, or someone who blanks. But yeah, I think Saka's worth a hit. Will Grealish start? I mean, I honestly don't know. With the Champions League coming up now, even Grealish isn't safe. He's been nailed on for quite some time now. But yeah, it's difficult for me to say. I'm not even going to try to guess Man City's team right now. I want to see how they do and what the lineup is against Leipzig before maybe even giving an informed opinion on what I think could happen in Game Week 25. Only in the short term. I don't think Gomez is nailed long term. Yeah, but then again, you know, even those that did well this week, they probably did poorly in the recent weeks, or they might have a poor game week coming up. So you can't do well every single week, and there's still a long way to go. And a lot of doubles and blanks, and I think the ranks are going to definitely oscillate up and down. So I wouldn't be too worried. Sure, KDB, White, Bruno to Trent, Estupiñán, Salah, Odegaard -8. Yeah, looks really standard. Obviously, Estupiñán, no. Bear in mind, he blanks in 25. So I'd go for another defender like Tarkowski or Kilman, but yeah, that looks fine. I like Estupiñán long term, don't get me wrong, but it's not the right time to bring him in. I would have to bring in a budget midfielder like Andreas Tamares if I want to make a transfer room for both Salah and Trent. Yeah, I think it's worth it, Alex. And also, it can help you long term to not have too much squad depth and have benching headaches every single week. So I think it is ultimately worth it this week. And also, you might wildcard it very soon in 27. So you can always get out of that situation if it maybe goes wrong after 25. Gakpo or Iwobi for differential. Out of those two, I would prefer Gakpo. But from Everton midfielders, Iwobi's my favourite. He's got 7 assists this season in FPL, also a goal. And he is my favourite Everton attacker. But that goes to show what they have on offer this season. Trippier to Virgil van Dijk and KDB to Salah, -4 for Rashford to Henderson. Henderson, no, there's no chance I'd ever recommend Henderson in FPL. Van Dijk, I'd just rather go to a Liverpool fullback like Trent or Robertson, or even Gomez, who's cheaper and arguably better for bonus points than Van Dijk. KDB to Salah, really good, but Trippier, I'd probably go to another Liverpool defender instead of Van Dijk, and I definitely wouldn't do Rashford to Henderson. I don't think that's worth it. Foden deserved to be benched. Haaland would have at least 1 goal. Difficult to say because Foden early in the season was exceptional and even had a good World Cup when he got the starts. And for some reason, Pep just started benching him all of a sudden. It's difficult for him to then just go back to the City team and do really well. And I'm guessing when he had that chance where he just tried to square it to Haaland, he was having in the back of his mind, early in the season, he wasn't giving it to Haaland when he had an open goal. And he probably overthought it a little bit too much. He's still a quality player. People do forget that very quickly. And people just go off recent form as well. Do you think Patterson or Mitrovic will play next week? I think Patterson will play one game. I'm not sure if they play both. And as for Mitrovic, I'm not sure. I thought he would in Game Week 24. He didn't. And either way, I probably would sell Mitrovic at this moment in time. Nobody worried that Liverpool may prioritise their Real Madrid game. Yeah, that's a good point. That is definitely a possibility. Liverpool have no chance of winning the league this season, but they can win the Champions League. I would not be surprised if they did, especially if they get their act together. And they've been fairly decent. Let's not forget, they beat Napoli, the most informed team in Europe, arguably, at home. So I think Liverpool have a chance still. Of course, Madrid's going to be tough, and they have been their kryptonite in recent years, but that's a really good point, Harry. And that's why I still don't think I'd go for a triple up overall. I think a double up is fine. I wouldn't go out of my way with a -4, -8 to get a triple up for sure. Pickford or Jose Sarr for keeper? Good question. I'd still rather go for Jose Sarr long term because with a goalkeeper, you'd want someone to fill in for the next 4 or 5 game weeks at least. Depends also when you want to use the wild card, because otherwise you could maybe debate that Everton will keep more clean sheets over the next few weeks, but I'd rather go for Jose Sarr. I think he's a decent choice. I don't think he's great necessarily. I've always said this. I think they can keep a clean sheet against Villa, actually, but I don't see them keeping a clean sheet against Arsenal or in the games afterwards. But then again, you never know in the Premier League. But in home games, I would maybe back Everton a little bit more at the moment. That's 2 wins in 2 under Sean Dyche. Some pretty difficult fixtures as well. So yeah, I think Tarkowski's a decent choice, but not necessarily that great. Best game week to free hit other than this game week? Really depends. If you want to be aggressive, you can use it in a double like 29, 34, 37, or a smaller double game week, not to mention the blanks in 28, 32, the big blanks of the season. So I think any of those would be good. I'm mainly looking to use it potentially in a blank game week, so it could be now in 25 or in 28. I'm yet to decide, and you also need to think about your transfer plans and how that affects what you're going to do afterwards in the weeks to come too. But I think maybe 28 is a good opportunity for you. Once again, with Gakpo, I'm not a big fan of him. I think if you had to, or if you really want a Liverpool attack and you can't get to Salah or Nunez, if Nunez is injured, of course, for Game Week 25, then yeah, Gakpo will be my favourite midfielder besides Salah. But having said that, I don't think he's the best Liverpool option. He's probably 4th or 5th in the list for me. Do you think Tony, Shaw and De Gea to Nunez, Bueno and Alisson for a -8 to field 11 players in Game Week 25 is a good or bad idea? I think it's a good idea. But having said that, I'm not a big fan of Alisson. I know he's one of the highest scoring goalkeepers this season, but I think it's a bit too much money and Liverpool still need a lot to prove. Darwin Nunez is obviously an injury doubt, so keep an eye on that. And as for Bueno, not too sure. He's not completely nailed either in that Wolves team, as we've seen in the last few weeks. Liverpool can still get top 4. Yeah, of course they can. I mean, the last 2 games have put them in contention once again. If they didn't win both, I don't think any of us would be saying this right now. But yeah, they have a chance. Newcastle have been quite poor, I think, in the last few months. Having said that, since December, I'd say a lot of draws, not enough wins, and I think a big reason recently is because of Bruno Guimaraes not being there. They're not going to have Nick Pope for the next few games. It'll be Dubravka in the Premier League, Karras in the Carabao Cup final. So yeah, Liverpool have a chance, and I think more people will start to warm to that idea. Let's not forget how good Liverpool can be, and they have looked really solid recently. Salah, Robertson and Saka in for KDB, White and Fernandes for a -4 hit. Sound good? Yeah, I think so. I have no objections to that whatsoever, and I'd do it, honestly, Julio Peña, especially if you need to get rid of White to get Saka in. I think that looks good. Went for Rashford captain instead of Haaland. Yeah, I mean, even I said it against Forest, it might look really easy on paper, but they have been pretty good recently, despite losing to Fulham 2-0 in Game Week 22, or was it 23, should I say? Yeah, I don't think it's that easy, but I still expect the City to score 2 or 3. And it's very easy for a lot of us now to look back and say, oh, Haaland captain wasn't that great. But City had a lot of chances. Haaland himself had 2 or 3. One glaring opportunity right in front of goal, which he also missed a rebound for. So, yeah, on another day, I think Haaland gets a big haul. But at the same time, I'm actually not that fussed that he didn't. I think I'll free it in 28, wildcard 29, and bench boost 34. Yeah, that looks pretty solid. I'm looking at something similar, or maybe wildcarding in 27. We've discussed this in the last few weeks in streams as well, briefly. And I think between that period, 27 to 34, is when you really want to use your chips. For the majority of chips anyway. With the triple captain, might be a bit different. Mings or Bueno to Gomez? I mean, I'd rather get rid of Mings out of those two in the hopes that Bueno starts both games for Wolves in the double game week. What to do with Mahrez? It's all circumstantial, but I'm open to selling him myself. He's the one midfielder I have that I'm looking to sell to Salah. Potentially. I think since the World Cup, they've been pretty solid. Obviously, apart from the United game in Game Week 17, after that, I think they've started to get their act together, have a consistent 11. Quite tough to beat, especially at home. I'm actually quite fearful when Arsenal go there. I think they could drop points there. Yeah, they've been pretty good recently, and as you say, unbeaten at home since September. Really good stuff, but then again, we always have these things in our mind with certain teams, and because they're a newly promoted side, they're still, not completely clear from relegation zone. There's always going to be doubters, and people will just look at Forest and think, oh, that's an easy haul for Haaland or whoever, but they can be very resilient. Navas, I think, has been a really good signing as well, made some great saves, and also their defensive structure. If you check their heat map against City, I mean, everyone was pretty much in their own box. Is Mykolenko better than Tarkowski? It's debatable. I think Tarkowski has better attacking threat. That's what I like about him, and he can also get the assist from set pieces by all these knock-ons. Mykolenko was a pretty decent option towards the end of last season, so he's not a bad shout that you mentioned there. And look, I think with Tarkowski, the main attraction is that he's cheaper as well. I think both are fine, to be fair. You don't just have to go for Tarkowski. Cody's also pretty good. So yeah, Mykolenko's fine. Mings or Bueno to Gomez, we answered Mustafa. Best free hit team, not going to cover it in this video. We're going to cover it in an upcoming video. Best free hit team, best wildcard team, and a few other videos lining up this week. That is the plan. So no need to do it right now. Mahrez to who? Well, if you don't have him, Saka for sure. If not, Odegaard, Salah. And if you can't get to them, or if you have these players already, Gakpo's not a bad option. Maybe Iwobi if you want a double gimmick player. But really, it's an Arsenal midfielder for me, or Salah. I think they're the three best midfielders to get this week. Solly March or McAllister? I think Solly March still. I was backing McAllister to be a really good FPL option, and I think the underlying numbers recently have been the best between him, Mitoma, and March, but he's not getting the FPL points. But either way, don't think about Brighton midfielders right now. They're blanking in 25, so. Can you rank Liverpool assets in terms of how good they are to bring in this double game week? Salah first, I'd say Trent second, Robertson third, Joe Gomez fourth maybe, and Darwin fifth. That would probably be my ranking, and maybe Gakpo sixth. Other than that, I would not go for anyone else, potentially, although Van Dijk is not a bad option either. Bring in Gakpo and Trent for the next double game week, or do you just think Salah can do the job? Tough one. If you've got an 11 already, I'd rather go for just Salah alone, because it also enables you to potentially have Shaw or Botman or Trippier for game weeks 26 and 27. In particular 27, because obviously Newcastle play City very soon as well. But yeah, I think Salah will be my preference. Take out Mahrez or Rashford. I'd rather get rid of Mahrez, assuming you have an 11 in game week 25. Rashford is the season keeper for me. And also with Mahrez, he could be benched in 25 anyway. Darwin to hold or sell for Kane? Well, if you have Darwin still to this point, I'd hold him. The only way I'd sell him is if he's confirmed out for game week 25. Agreed, got triple Arsenal attack already, so probably going to have to settle for Gakpo. Is it worth a -4 though? I think so. I mean, this is the thing with Gakpo. I'm not a big fan of him FPL-wise, despite his recent returns. I'd still rather have Salah and the fullbacks, but if you can't get to them, then I still think it's worth a cheeky punt for a -4 hit. Fernandes and Mitoma to Salah and Ward-Prowse. Yes, but once again with Ward-Prowse, he wouldn't be my favourite option or my priority, to be quite frank with you. Bruno and Trossard to Gakpo and Saka -4 hit. Yeah, I think it's worth it, but once again with Gakpo, not my favourite option. If you can get to Salah, that would definitely be the suggestion. Of course, you might not be able to do that, which is fair enough. Rank Arsenal double gimmick players to get. Similar to Gimmick 23, probably Saka first, Odegaard second, and in third position. Bit trickier now. Especially with Arsenal not keeping clean sheets and Nketiah misfiring. But I probably would go for... I'd probably still go for Nketiah, actually. I'd go for Nketiah and kind of front three for Arsenal. Obviously, there is a bit of a doubt. Trossard even coming for Nketiah with Martinelli coming back in the side. That's what I want to happen as well. But I think Arteta will keep the faith of Nketiah. who maybe has been a bit unlucky recently, but his finishing has been pretty poor. If Darwin is injured, wouldn't Jota be ready to start by now? Yes, and you've also got Firmino, though. That's the big issue, but that's a good point that you make there. They're knocking on the door, and Jota's been really impressive, helping Liverpool overall. Maybe, in terms of goals and assists, he hasn't been impressing, but I think he has made an impact in terms of his pressing and what he offers in terms of energy. So, yeah, that could definitely be possible. And if Darwin's out, I would back Jota to start over Firmino. Are you going to get Salah? It's not completely set in stone, to be quite frank, but I am looking to get him in. Yeah. Is Gomez nailed? Yeah, Matip is fit. I think he was on the bench, but... so, my opinion, I think Joe Gomez will start both in 25, but beyond that, I wouldn't be convinced, especially with the Champions League coming around. And like Harry said earlier, I would not be surprised if there was some key players benched. Even Joe Gomez could be benched to save that partnership of Van Dijk and Gomez against Real Madrid. So, in my opinion, he will start both, but he's not nailed on beyond that. Should I sell White? Best White replacement on a free transfer? I'd probably still keep White. The only way I'd sell him, or the only reason I'd sell him, is to free up that slot for a Saka or Odegaard in midfield. Other than that, I'd be happy to keep him, to be fair. You think Gakpo's nailed with Jota now coming back? Well, he could be, even because Darwin Núñez could miss out in Game Week 25. I don't think Gakpo will necessarily start and play 90 minutes every single week, so in that sense, he's not nailed. But I would expect him to start both in Game Week 25. And I sell Kane to get Núñez? Yeah, of course you can. It's not a bad shout this week. It's the only week I would consider such a move. Ultimately, though, I would keep Kane if you can. I'm looking to do something similar, but to get Salah in, and I think that's the key difference, really. But yeah, ultimately, if you can, I would keep Kane. I still think he's a great option. Would you keep Tony with 10 players for Game Week 25? Tony's an interesting one because he's only 2 yellow cards away from suspension. He's got, obviously, the blank in 25. And I would not be surprised if he missed one of the Game Week 27 games because of the suspension. So, yes, with Tony, I would look to sell him maybe to Núñez. And a few other players like Harry Kane. Obviously, Haaland is not even, it goes without mentioning. Other than that, are there any forwards I'd sell Tony for this week? Probably Nketiah, and that's it. Because even with Iheanacho, I'd probably wait a little bit longer once the fixtures clear up a little bit. But yeah, ultimately, I would sell Tony, but only for free, not for a hit. Let's see what else we have. Gomez, Trent, and James Ward-Prowse from -8. I don't know which players you're bringing out. I'm assuming some United players are involved. James Ward-Prowse, look, I think he's a great player, or at least a great set-piece taker, and he's got great technique. But would I go from an FPL? I'm not so sure. Is Pickford worth to get in a free hit? Potentially. When I'm looking at all the goalkeepers and stuff and all the options, yeah, I think on a free hit he's worth inclusion. It's between him and Jose Sarr for me, rather than Ramsdale or Alisson, in my opinion. Thoughts about captaining defender? The only defender I would even briefly consider captaining would be Trent, and either way, no. I'd rather go for Saka, Odegaard or Salah. I think they're the top 3 captaincy options this week. At least at this moment in time. I might change my mind as we get closer to the deadline. Dilemma between Robertson or Trent? I'd go for Robertson for free. I don't think it's worth a -4 hit to go for Trent over Robertson, in my opinion, although I could be wrong. Watkins or Iheanacho? It's a close call. Watkins has been in great form recently, but I still favour Iheanacho. And also, he had chances today. Leicester should have scored a goal or 2 in the first 20 minutes. Yep, I think so. Ideally, I'd keep Trippier, but if I want to get Trent Alexander-Arnold in and Salah, it would have to be Trippier making way. What do you think about Shaw, KDB and Mahrez to Salah, Gakpo and Tarkowski from -4? I like it a lot. Once again, I'm not a huge fan of Gakpo, but as a -4 hit, it's definitely worth it. I'd probably rather do a free hit, to be fair. I think a -12 seems excessive this week, and you're probably guaranteed a red arrow unless you go on an absolute madness and get a crazy score, but that's quite unlikely, you could say. So I'd say a free hit. Bench or sell Rashford? Well, bench. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get rid of him if you can. And if you do sell him, try to bring him back in, despite the possible blank in 28 as well. Any Chelsea assets worth taking in? Still Kepa, Badiashile. Apart from those two, Felix is the best attacker, but I've always said this, even when Felix got that goal against West Ham, I'm still very concerned about Chelsea and their ability to create chances. They look pretty good in the Champions League against Dortmund, but still no goals. And once again, very toothless against Southampton yesterday. And in the last 10 games, Chelsea have only won one game and they've scored only 4 goals. So at the moment, I'd only go for defenders or the goalkeeper, and that's it. Would you sell Shaw or Trippier? Good question. Ideally, I'd probably sell Shaw. Despite United being in better form, United are much more likely to blank in Game Week 28. And also, Trippier has good clean sheet probabilities, especially when Bruno Guimaraes comes back from suspension. So I'd rather keep Trippier if you can. Bueno to Gomez or Trippier to Trent? Probably Bueno to Gomez would be... I mean, that's the tough one because Bueno has the double now. I'd probably rather do Trippier to Trent. And I'd try to get Trippier back in fairly soon as well. I mean, it's a tough one, really, because long-term, Trippier is the one you want to keep, and I'd still rather have him than Trent. But for Game Week 25, that is the move with the higher upside, of course. Tony to Watkins, yes, I think that's a decent move. You know, apart from Watkins, Iheanacho, Nketiah, and possibly one or two other forwards, you know, there's not many I'd get rid of or get Tony out for this week, basically. It's a close one, but I think I'd keep Tony, actually. You think Potter's close to being sacked? Yes. There was some reports coming out from The Athletic that Potter's going to be giving time, maybe even years, but it's hard to see that, especially if Chelsea fans pile the pressure and, you know, maybe there's empty seats and stuff like that. But he's definitely, you know, under serious pressure. They've won one game of the last 10, something ridiculous like that. Patterson to Bueno? Not so sure. I probably wouldn't do that. Even though Patterson's obviously just come back from an injury. He played for the under-21s recently as well. Sell Haaland or Kane for Salah? I'd still rather sell Kane out of those two, especially with Bentancur being out. Is it worth bringing a defender from -4 around the range of 5 million? Well, yes, and I think Joe Gomez is the best short-term solution for you. But you've also got Tarkowski and Kilman to think about. And then you've got Arsenal defenders as well, if you have that Arsenal slot available. But yeah, it is worth it. You've got White and Bueno playing in the 11. That looks fine. Obviously, with Bueno, still a few doubts, but looks pretty good. Maddison or Barnes? I'd rather go for Maddison. He's my favourite FPL asset from Leicester, then Iheanacho, then probably Barnes. Getting Trent and Tarkowski for free. Thoughts on Mahrez to Gakpo for a -4? Yeah, those free transfers look good. And look, Mahrez to Gakpo for a -4, I think it will pay off. I'm really unsure if Mahrez will start in 25. And if he does, the weeks after that, he's in trouble as well, potentially. Botman to Tarkowski and Ake to Trent for 2 free transfers. Thoughts? I like that. Yeah, I think those look really solid. Nonto and Mbumo long-term. I mean, I don't really fancy either of them. Probably Mbumo for the double in 27. Should Chelsea appoint Ancelotti? I don't see that happening, to be fair. I know Ancelotti's under pressure for Real Madrid because they're struggling in the league, but there are a lot of reports linking Ancelotti to Brazil. I don't see Ancelotti going to Chelsea, to be quite frank with you. Sell Shaw to Trent or Tony to Darwin, 1 free transfer? That's a good question. I'd rather do Shaw to Trent, especially with United likely to blank in 28 and also Brentford doubling in 27. So I'd rather do that. It's too early to tell. Now, I think that Mudryk would have done pretty well at Arsenal, even from the get-go. But it's difficult to say. Chelsea as a whole are struggling. Even Enzo Fernandez, who was absolutely exceptional for Benfica and for Argentina, he's also struggling a little bit, despite him maybe being one of the standout players in recent games. Even Felix hasn't necessarily been that great overall. You know, in the last game against Southampton, I think he was a bit sloppy in possession. Of course, played well in the other games before he got sent off against Fulham and stuff. But it's too early to judge, basically, with Mudryk. -4 or free hit, I'd rather do a -4. Salah or Saka captain, at the moment Saka, but I am a bit more open-minded, especially with Liverpool's recent form. We answered that, Arseni, hopefully you got that. Should I keep Mahrez or replace him because of rotation risk? I'm looking to sell him myself, and look, he could start and do well against Bournemouth, but ultimately, I think long-term, with the Champions League coming back, Mahrez is a risk of minutes for sure. Should I sell Ake or Mahrez for double gameweek players? I mean, I think Mahrez is a better FPL option than Ake, but I can see Ake getting more minutes, and that's where the problem lies. Mahrez has the highest ceiling, and he'll probably get more points, but he's also more expensive and will play less minutes, in my opinion. So it's a tricky one, but I'd rather sell Ake. Is Ream a good option? Well, yeah. Fulham, I think, 3 clean sheets and a bounce now. He's a decent option, and I could see a clean sheet in Game Week 25 against Wolves. So, yeah, he is a good option. Leno as well in goal. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. Nunez to Kane and Robertson to Burn with a -4. I'm guessing it's the other way around, getting the Liverpool players in. Yeah, I think that looks pretty solid. Even though I think Kane is a far better option than Nunez, I think the hit can pay off this week. Is it better to take free hit next week, my 5 players not playing? If you've got 5 players not playing in your starting 11, so you only have 6 playing players, then yeah, I would free hit. Hey Dylan, just during the live stream, what are your transfer plans? I'm not going to go into it too much because, for one, I haven't finalized it. I've got a lot of different options. And 2, I want to save it for the team selection video and other content coming up. But I am open to getting in the likes of Salah and Trent, possibly both. But if I were to do that, it would require getting rid of Kane and maybe even a -8 hit. Now, if I wanted to get one Liverpool player, I'm looking at Salah mainly. It's between Salah and Trent, and at the moment I'm leaning towards Salah, who could even become my captain over Saka in Game Week 25. So Mars would be the player making way for Salah, and if it was Trent, then it could be one of Shaw, Trippier, or even Botman making way. Now, if I look at my defence, Cucurella is the worst asset I have in my team, period, but at the same time, he also plays in Game Week 25, and I would not be surprised if he started in Game Week 25 whilst Chilwell's rested for the Champions League or something like that. So it's a difficult one. I've got a lot of different options, but I think I'm going to keep Tony. And if anything, if I wanted to get in Salah and Trent, it would be Kane as well making way on top of Mahrez. But a lot of different plans at the moment. I'm open to taking a -4 hit, not looking to do a -8 to be fair. A free hit is also on the cards, but I think the most likely scenario for me this week is 2 free transfers or a -4 hit with Salah coming in. I want a free hit, sell White for Zinchenko or Nketiah. I'd probably favour the Arsenal attack and go for Nketiah, especially with the fixtures. Why Wolves look like losing momentum lately? Hard to get a clean sheet. Expect against some average teams only. I mean, with Wolves, sometimes they do step up against the bigger teams, so to speak. And I think Fulham's a difficult game. I would not be surprised if that game ended 0-0. But the way I see it, I think Wolves will concede against Fulham and Liverpool right now. I think they'll concede in both games, with them being away as well. They're still a decent team. They've got a good manager as well. I think the main problem with Wolves is their attackers. They're very blunt in front of goal, and that's why I was shocked to see them beat Liverpool 3-0 very recently. How do you plan on affording Salah? Like I said, it probably would be Mahrez making way, and also one of my defenders being downgraded. So Tarkowski in for Luke Shaw or Trippier, so something like that. But once again, not set in stone, so that's why I'm not going to talk about my transfer plans too much right now. Best Brentford defender? I'll definitely Ben me. And as for Brighton defender, it's Stupinian. But of course, they're players to bring in 26 or 27. Sold Mahrez for James Ward-Prowse and Ake for Trent for a -8 hit. I'm seeing a lot of love for James Ward-Prowse today. And look, he's a decent option. I think he's the only one I'd consider from Southampton. But I think there are better midfielders, to be fair. Keep Mitoma or sell him for Gakpo. I'd only sell him to Gakpo for free. But honestly, I'd probably keep Mitoma. Bear in mind that Brighton have requested for their game against Palace to be postponed, the one in Game Week 27, so that's something to think about. Can you check if Salah and Gakpo are predicted to rise in price tonight? The site I use isn't very reliable. Dave, be sure to use fplstatistics.co.uk. I'm going to bring up right now for you. But yeah, apparently Gakpo's close, but not close enough, and there should be no price rises for him or Salah. I would expect them to go up in price fairly soon. So sometime this week, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, I can't tell you exactly when, of course. And sometimes the players are at over 100%, which means they're going to go up in price, and they still don't go up. So I think they will go up, before the deadline. That goes without saying, but not today, is what this site is saying. It's very reliable as well. So be sure to check it out. I'm going to put a link in the description. Well, should I say in the live chat? It's simpler for you. So Dave, be sure to click that link and let me know what you think as well. Maybe bookmark it as well, so you're always up to date with the price rises. What's your gut feeling? Who wins the league? It's too early to tell. I've said even a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when Arsenal were in a commanding position, for me, City are the favourites, just because I think Arsenal are a young team, they're naive, they proved it against City with the mistakes they made and gifting them the goals. And Arsenal, look, I have to give them credit for the way they responded, 3 games on the bounce in the Premier League, dropping points, losing such a huge game to City, down against Aston Villa, who pretty much always win when they're leading at half-time at home, and they managed to mount a comeback. So Arsenal have a chance, of course, but I'd say City is the one I still back for the league. My only concern with City, you know, if I was a City fan, is the fact that they haven't been able to build a really good run together. They've not won 4 games in a row this season, which is very surprising. That's something they tend to do with ease. So that's the one thing that I think Arsenal have in their favour. They're able to go on these big runs, whilst Man City always, it's a bit stop-start. They win 2 games in a row, then draw or lose, and that's just not good enough for their standards. Thoughts on White to Zinchenko? I'd only do that for free. I would not do that, you know, in general for a hit or something like that. So yeah, only for free. And if you have no other transfers to make. Captain Saka or Haaland? Definitely Saka for me this week. I would not captain Haaland. I know he's facing Bournemouth and he could do well, but Bournemouth are another one that have been a bit decent recently. A bit tougher to beat, although Nottingham Forest are better than them. So I would expect City to still win. But having said that, Saka with a double, I'd captain over Haaland. And it's between Saka, Odegaard and Salah for the captaincy. Thank you, Dave. Is Nunez a good option? For this double game week, I think he's decent. He's also been pretty, well, at least he's been okay in the last 2 game weeks. Of course, a bit frustrating for those owners who had him in game week 24, got the goal, but then subbed off for 60 minutes with the injury. But yeah, he is a decent option. There are better ones for Liverpool, though, in my opinion. Yeah, top 3 Liverpool assets for me, it's Salah, Trent and Robertson. Although I do like Gomez as well, and he's probably the more budget-friendly option, of course, for a lot of us. Biggest blank game week will be game week 28 or 32. Best Shaw replacement under 4.9 million. Under 4.9 million, so not Joe Gomez then. Although I might have gone there wrong with his price, by the way. I have to check that. Let me actually check very quickly with Gomez. Oh, he's 4.3. I thought he was 4.9 for some reason. So yeah, Joe Gomez or Tarkowski. Gomez another one. So those would be the top 3 to buy this week, in my opinion. But I'd probably go for Joe Gomez or Tarkowski. Take your pick there. Depends on what you're looking to do. Do you have a Liverpool spot available? Do you have other transfer plans as well? But yeah, I think those defenders would be pretty good for you. Which 3 Liverpool players must be in the double? Yeah, we covered that. Hopefully you got it. Is triple captain a good option from Arsenal? Yeah, but I think there are better opportunities later in the season. At this moment in time, Rashford, you know, that's why I captain him in 22. He's just in the form of his life. You've still got Haaland, other City players. Even Liverpool assets like Salah could become an option. But yeah, it's fine. But I'm not too sure because Arsenal have been very inconsistent recently. And despite Saka's form, I'd still be a bit wary about Leicester away and Everton at home. I don't see them as huge wins for Arsenal. Of course, that would definitely be welcome. A huge victory, winning by 3 or 4, but I don't see it. Would you get Tarkowski or Joe Gomez? Good question. I'm looking to bring in both at the moment, but if I had to pick one, I think it'd be Joe Gomez, even though he's the bigger risk out of the 2. Yep, I mentioned it earlier, Carriol. It is true, and I think Brighton have requested the game to be postponed, so we're going to find out more in the next week or 2. Yeah, Dawson's another one. It doesn't have to be Kilman. The same goes for Tarkowski. It could be Mikalenko or Cody as well. But I still think Tarkowski is the best from Everton and Kilman's the best from Wolves because of bonus points, pretty much, in Kilman's case. Bruno to Gakpo. I'd rather go to Salah, but apart from Salah and Nunez, the next best kind of attacker for Liverpool, in my opinion, is Gakpo. So, yeah, he's not a bad option, of course. What do you think of Joe Gomez? Yeah, I like it. I'm looking to bring him in myself. Same goes for Tarkowski. I'd say 2. On a free hit, I'd go for 3. With my normal team, I'd say 2. I am open to both, but at the moment, I'm looking to use a -4 or just use free transfers in Game Week 25, so no free hit. Maybe save it for Game Week 28 or another game week. Best budget forward who plays in Game Week 28? That is a difficult one. I need to refresh my memory as well about the fixtures in Game Week 28, so bear with me for a second. So this is a tough one. Someone who plays in Game Week 28 as well. That's a good question. Of course, things can change by Game Week 25. We should find out more. In terms of which teams are eliminated by, for Game Week 28 in the FA Cup and how that will affect it and the blank game weeks. But at the moment, it's a tough one. I'm not really a big fan of a lot of these options. Nketiah is a decent option if Jesus is still not back or starting games. Oof, that's a good one. I was considering, maybe Ollie Watkins, I think, for Villa. Could be a decent one as well. So, Nketiah or Watkins is probably 2 of the standouts. I was considering as well Iheanacho as well, if he were to have a game in 28 too. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Ivan Toney's another one as well, of course. Right. Buy Trippier, sell Robertson. I'm guessing it's the other way around. You will not be buying Trippier this week, but yeah, I'd be open to that. Sell Cucurella for Gomez for a -4. For a -4. Ultimately, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. Keeping Ketty up until which game week? I'd say, like I said a few weeks ago, probably 27, 28. Best budget forward for game week 25, barring Ketia. Barring Ketia. Iheanacho's been in good form, but has a pretty poor fixture. I'd say Ollie Watkins is a decent one. Not amazing, but I think he's a decent choice. What do you think of Tottenham? If that's a Arsenal type question, I think you'll know what I'm going to say. But yeah, obviously they're in 4th position right now. I still think they'll struggle with Bentancur being out, but they have a chance. Can I get your insight into why Gomez is more nailed than Matip? Well, in recent games, Gomez has been starting. Of course, I know Matip started alongside Gomez before Van Dijk's return this week, but I think Gomez and Van Dijk have a really good partnership going. That was, the title-winning partnership a few years ago. And I just have a feeling Joe Gomez is going to start more games than Matip in the Premier League. And if anything, it could be like the Champions League last season, where Matip is going to play in the Champions League this time round and Gomez plays in the Premier League until Konate comes back. Now, it's a difficult one, but I think if they're all available, at the moment, I would favour Gomez to start with his recent form. He's been getting bonus points. When you look at Matip, he obviously scored the own goal against Wolves and was calamitous in that game. So at the moment, based on form, I would favour Gomez a little bit more to start the games. Yeah, Brennan Johnson is my favourite Nottingham Forest attacker. I've said this a few weeks ago as well. Would I buy him? Probably not, but he's definitely one worth considering, especially if you want a budget forward. Yep, Trent at the moment is a decent option. Is he one for the rest of the season? I don't think so, but for game week 25 and maybe 26, 27, he's looking pretty good. Which Everton mid to go for? Iwobi. I think he's the best one, the most consistent. He's obviously got 7 assists this season in FPL. Thank you, Julio Pena, for being a member for 5 months. I appreciate it. How are you feeling about your rank currently? I'm still quite happy considering how poor my season was up until the World Cup. Since then, obviously, going up the ranks by over 1 million. I was 1.3 million now in the top 100k. A bit frustrated about the last 2 game weeks though, because I've been hovering between 77k and 95k. I want to find a way to break into the top 50k and then keep on pushing. So that's going to be the next step for me, and it's going to be difficult. I need to nail down the captaincy, nail down the double game week options, and also set my team up right for game weeks 26, 27 and beyond. And obviously the chips and the chip strategy will play a big part in that too. Nick Pope replacement. I still think Kepa's a good option. I think a big reason why Chelsea struggled defensively yesterday was no Thiago Silva. But yeah, I think Kepa's still a great option in goal. Leno is looking fantastic, not to mention David Raya after game week 25. But if you want someone right now, I think I would go for either Kepa or Leno. I think they're the 2 best goalkeepers to buy in game week 25. Saka or Rashford? As a player overall, I think Saka. In FPL, Rashford. I can get Trent and Robertson on a free. Is it too excessive? I already have Salah. Is it too excessive? I don't think so. Look, like I said, long-term, would I want double Liverpool defence? Probably not. But I think that's a really good differential for Game Week 25 specifically. And Cathan, you probably want a wild card very soon. And if that's the case, I think that's a really good trio. Like I said earlier, it's the best trio you can get from Liverpool, in my opinion. Is Kilman good? Yes, but he's facing Fulham away and Liverpool away. Both teams are in form recently, so I will not be that confident of a clean sheet. The most likely out of those two will be Fulham, could be a 0-0, but still. KDB to Salah, Kane to Darwin, short to Trent for a -4, or just KDB to Salah and short to Van Dijk for free? Really good question. It's a tough one, but I'd probably go for the -4 and even offload Harry Kane, which does sound mad. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised about that. Koulibaly was a really good player for Napoli, especially in the 2017 season when they almost won the league. But at Chelsea, he's been absolutely awful. And even in recent years for Napoli, he's had some calamitous moments in the Champions League too. Hope to Pickford. If you want a double game goalkeeper, yeah. But would I want Everton or an Everton goalkeeper beyond game week 25? I don't think so. I'd rather go for Kepa or Leno. Will Potter stay? even when he was appointed, I actually didn't really expect him to last that long. Even if he did for the rest of the season, I could see him being sacked next season. And despite all the news coming out from The Athletic and all of this about him being given time, if he just doesn't turn around the results quickly with all the amount they spent, I just don't see him staying that much longer. Chelsea fans have already had enough. 80% of fans would tell you that they want him out. Tarkowski or Estupinian for the next few weeks? Probably Estupinian still, despite the blank. Trippier value goes down tonight. I haven't checked, so we can go through that very quickly. Let's see. Yeah, players about to go down include Mitrovic, Gabriel, and McKennie. So at the moment, it looks like Trippier's nowhere near a price fall, although that could change very quickly. Yeah, I'd say later in the week, maybe again, Tuesday, Wednesday, when there's a lot of transfer activity. But for the time being, I don't think Trippier will go down in price. I'm obviously very... How would I say this? I trust this website a lot in terms of price rises and falls. It's the only one I trust, really. In terms of the fixture ticker, Arsenal remain top. You've also got Liverpool now in second, also showing some great form. Of course, both teams are doubling in Game Week 25. Man City have gone up a little bit in terms of the fixture ticker. Newcastle and Man United remain bottom. But I believe it's Newcastle that now go down to bottom before it was Man United. So that is the fixture ticker over the next 6 game weeks. Bear in mind that Game Week 28 will also be a blank for many teams depending on the FA Cup results. And we should find out more in the next few weeks. In terms of predicted points, Salah is top with Eddie Nketiah in second place. He's had a lot of chances recently, hasn't been burying them. And to be fair to him, he also played a really big part in the Odegaard chance, which I don't know how he missed to this day. Nketiah won the ball, set Odegaard up for a tap-in, and that was obviously not converted. But Nketiah himself missed 2 chances against Aston Villa, hit the crossbar, was one-on-one with Emi Martinez, but took a bad touch. And also in previous games against City, missed some good chances. But he is second over the likes of Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. Trent is also in 5th. You've got Robertson, Haaland, Zinchenko, Ramsdale and Saliba. So the algorithm is really favouring Arsenal assets, but also the Liverpool ones like Salah and Trent. So good to see them back in the list once again. And we should have some top games in the Premier League coming up very soon as well. Anything else to really show you? I'm going to show you the top captaincy options this week. So if you're like me and you captained Erling Haaland, well, a lot of us did it anyway. You're not really maybe feeling the effects, but of course there is maybe a bit of a big swing between Rashford and Haaland captainers, and that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Rashford, the informed player in the league. We can't captain him this week, unfortunately, in 25, and I think Haaland, his effective ownership will actually be quite low in 25, so maybe you could captain him this week and hope for the best, but I would expect him to start against Bournemouth despite the Champions League, and also do pretty well despite his misses against Nottingham Forest. But yeah, quite surprising to see him miss the chances he did in Game Week 24, and Man City played really well, and they should have won the game. Is a -8 worth it for 3 double game week players and Kane? It depends on the double game week players. If it includes the likes of Salah and Trent, I'd say so. Should I keep Patterson or sell? I'd wait. I'd hold him for now and wait until we get more information. And as we get closer to the deadline, that's when I'd make a final decision. But my current inclination would be to sell. Your top 3 strikers to bring in for the double game week. Already having Nketiah and Haaland. That's a tough one. Reluctantly, I'd probably have to put Nunez in the list, should he be fit. Apart from him, I wouldn't go for a Wolves or Everton striker, to be quite frank with you. So really, I think Nunez would be the favourite one, then maybe the likes of Watkins and Iheanacho. That would be my top 3. I might be forgetting somebody, but that's the 3 that come to mind. I think so. I think Gomez will start both, but beyond that, I'm not too sure. That is unknown. He could be back in Game Week 25, but Mitrovic has been a constant pain for owners since the World Cup and before that. Yep, it is as well, but in terms of the one that for me has always been quite reliable, it's fplstatistics.co.uk. And I'm not sponsored by them or anything. It's just something I've been using, a free resource. Worth a -4 to move from White to Odegaard? I think so, especially if you can get Trent in for Ben White or something like that, or even Joe Gomez. And also you're getting rid of a blank game week player for Odegaard. Thoughts on Trippier, Bruno and Kane for Trent, Salah and Diogo Jota, Darwin if healthy for a -4? I like it. And to be honest, if Nunez is out, I do like Jota as an option. That could be a fantastic differential. So ultimately, good transfers, even if you're getting rid of Kane, which would be my only concern for this week. It looks solid. Bueno or sell? A bit similar to Patterson, although obviously Patterson is for different reasons. He just came back from an injury. It is a difficult situation to be in. I definitely wouldn't for a hit. I would only sell Bueno for free, and if it's to a double Gameweek player. KDB, Martinelli, Shaw, Kane to Salah, Saka, Trent, and striker for a -8. Ooh, that is a tricky one. I ultimately would, provided that the striker is of a good quality as well. Sell Ake for Gomez? I think so. I think I would. Best 4.4 million defender. Short term, because I think long term Botman is still the best. I think he's gone up to 4.5 though. It would be Joe Gomez or Tarkowski. Thoughts on Gakpo next week? He's a decent mid-priced option, but in terms of Liverpool assets, I'd probably put him 5th or 6th. I think the Liverpool fullbacks are better. Joe Gomez and also Salah. And Darwin Nunez as well, if I didn't mention him. And yeah, there's just so many midfielders still. You know, once the blank is cleared, Mitoma's a good option. You've got Rashford, Saka, Odegaard, Salah is now looking like a decent option once again. So not my favourite. Bruno to Odegaard or Gakpo? Odegaard still for me, 100%. James, we talked about this a few days ago. He was left out of the squad, probably just to give him a rest and to save him for the Champions League. The same goes for Thiago Silva, Ziyech, and Cucurella. Salah for sure, 100%. Yeah, Dawson looks good. Dawson and Kilman will be the best Wolves defenders and assets to go for. I do prefer Kilman just for the bonus points, but Dawson has more attacking threat. Hybrid, I'd say. Look, stats sometimes reaffirm or reinforce what we see. But ultimately, I think if I had to lean one way, it would be the eye test. You know, watching football with your own eyes is, you know, obviously the best thing. And it gives you sometimes these sensations, maybe these gut feelings about a certain player doing well. A player can sometimes maybe perform really well, but not have the underlying numbers, and that could put you off if you maybe look too much into the stats. But it goes both ways. I think having a hybrid is obviously the perfect scenario, but then again, everyone's different. You know, you have some managers who do really well by just looking at stats and some that just look at eye tests. So I try to do both, but I do prefer the eye test. Mitra to Nonto to do Bruno to Salah. Yeah, although I don't think Nonto is necessarily a great option, and I said this after his goal against Man United. Tuchel should never have been sacked. I agree. He wasn't doing great for maybe over a year, but still got Chelsea to finals. And yeah, I think the sacking was just a really bad call in general because they backed Tuchel a lot. You know, signing Aubameyang, spending 250, 300 million in the summer. What's the point of that if you're going to sack him and then get another manager in? It's just a complete mess. No direction for Chelsea, in my opinion. Cancelo for Trent. Yep, solid. You know, really easy decision, I think. I'd go for it. Mahrez or Rashford for Gakpo. I'd rather keep Rashford and sell Mahrez, provided that you have an 11 for Game Week 25. Because if not, you can keep Mahrez, sell Rashford, and then bring him back in for Mahrez in Game Week 26. But also bear in mind, United will blank in Game Week 28, or are very likely to anyway. One choice between Neves and Iwobi? Probably Iwobi. In your opinion, why is Arsenal defence dropped? It's not just the defence, though. It's the whole team. I think Thomas Partey being out against Man City and Villa has played a big part in Arsenal conceding 5 goals. Because even before that, when they drew to Brentford and lost to Everton, they only conceded 1 goal in each of those games. And the goal against Everton was conceded when he came off the pitch. So I think Thomas Partey is the biggest reason why. Jorginho's played well against City and Aston Villa. But defensively and off the ball, Partey is just on another level. And he offers a balance to the midfield. And a few other reasons include the likes of Xhaka being off form. Ben White also not looking great, although he improved in the second half. Gabriel and Saliba, you know, sometimes one of them makes a mistake and there's a bit of insecurity at the back. Zinchenko has been pretty poor defensively as well. I think Arsenal need a few more changes because they've become a bit predictable, let's say, and I think it's just down to confidence and a bit of a blip in the last few games. Hopefully they've sorted things out, but I would have concerns about them defensively, and I wouldn't be that keen about buying an Arsenal defender at the moment. Keep Tony, Dunk if we have enough players for this week? Good question. Yeah, I'd say so. I'd be more inclined to keep Tony and sell Dunk if I had to pick one. Once again, I haven't completely settled on anything, but as we'll show you again with my team, the likes of Mahrez could be making way for Salah, and all I need to do really is downgrade a defender like Trippier or Shaw to a Kilman, Tarkowski, Joe Gomez, something like that. So that is the way I can basically fund the moves. It would only be for a -4 hit. And if I also want Trent, I could also downgrade Harry Kane. But unfortunately, I can't do Kane to Darwin, Salah in for Mahrez, and also bring in Trent Alexander-Arnold. However, if we actually go to the transfer section, I could do something like this, I think. Let me just double check this because I might be wrong. So I could do Harry Kane out for a Liverpool forward like Darwin Núñez. So let's bring in Darwin Núñez. I'll talk more about this in the team selection video. Nothing certain, of course. And I also want to wait for more information, especially in regards to Darwin Núñez. Then I can do Mahrez to Salah. And that leaves me with 1.2 million in the bank. And I think, yeah, I could do Trippier to Robertson. So I could do something like this. Unfortunately, I can't afford Trent, which would be my preference. But I literally have just enough money to do this. Maybe it's a sign. And I'm not a big fan of a triple up in Liverpool still, but it would be a differential and looks pretty solid, actually. Let me know your thoughts on this triple up. And this, let me see, I think there could be an issue with this thing, actually, because in terms of blank gaming players, I would still have 10. I would have Botman, Shaw, Rashford and Tony with a blank. So I would be down to 10 players. So if I went for this, I would not be able to fill the 11. I could get an 11 out by getting in Tarkowski and Joe Gomez at the back line and get Salah in the midfield and have a full 11. So that would be something to kind of weigh up. But I think this would have the higher upside despite being a man shorter. So like I said, I have so many different transfer plans. I don't want to finalize something yet. I want to reflect on it as the week goes by. But I have provided already my thoughts on that. Firmino, if Núñez is injured, yes, or even Jota. I wouldn't be too sure about Firmino starting, despite him being the best FPL forward for Liverpool this season. Best Spurs defender to get? Probably Perisic right now. I think with Pedro Porro and Emerson, there will be rotation. Emerson's been the better player recently. You know, Pedro Porro's just come in, of course, but Emerson's been arguably Spurs' best player in the last few weeks. So I'd probably go for Perisic or maybe even Dyer as the boring pick, but definitely Perisic the most exciting there. Ake or Shaw out for a playing defender in Game Week 25. I would rather keep Shaw long term, but you also have to think about Game Week 28 where Shaw could blank, of course, and to be fair, Ake could as well, and also this blank game week coming up too. Who would I rather get rid of? Ake. Tex says, do you think Dortmund have any realistic chance to win the Bundesliga this season? Yeah, I think so. But as you mentioned, Union Berlin, you can't forget about them. I still think Bayern will ultimately win it, unfortunately, but they have a chance. And, you know, Dortmund, I think in recent years have bottled it sometimes when they've had a good position. And they always seem to lose to Bayern in these 6-pointers. So that's also a big factor. But I think this is a really good chance for them to reclaim the title for the first time in, what, 10 years or something? Which would be crazy. 2 midfielders for 25. Saka and Odegaard would be the simple answer. It's not completely confirmed, but Brighton have requested for the game to be called off, so there is a good chance of that happening. I disagree. We can't just say Trippier's overrated because of 3 blanks in a row. Even at one point of the game, even maybe after the game, Trippier was close to getting a bonus point, despite Liverpool scoring 2 goals against Newcastle. And also bear in mind that Newcastle rely a lot on Bruno Guimaraes in the midfield. Ever since he's been suspended, you know, no clean sheets. I know he got the yellow card or suspension from the West Ham game, but I think that's a bit reactionary. Who would you sell of Shaw and Trippier? Probably Shaw, because Newcastle have a better defence. And also Trippier is still a better for bonus points and points overall. I can see Newcastle keeping more clean sheets. And not only that, I think Shaw is just more likely to blank in 28. And there's a few other factors like that. So I'd rather keep Trippier. You think it's okay to go over only 10 players in 25? Yeah. And that's why I'm considering going for this triple up or something else like this in order to tackle Game Week 25 instead of trying to find the best possible way to fill in 11. I don't think you need to get an 11 this week, and that's why it's also a question of quality rather than quantity. Do you have a lot of team value in Trippier? Not a lot. I think I brought Trippier in, in Game Week 6 maybe? So I got him in a little bit late. I can't remember fully. But yeah, what's his... So he's 6.1 million now. In terms of sell value, it's 5.6. So let me actually check this, the list view. So Trippier I brought in. Actually, I'd never used this site. I can't know this part of the site. So yeah, I brought him in at 5.1. He's now at 6.1. So I gained 0.5 million from him. So I would actually lose 0.5 million. And I would want him back eventually, I think. So yeah, I have some value tied up in him. I brought him quite a long time ago, but not at the very beginning. I still have Martinelli. Should I sell him for Saka? I still would, especially for free. 52 points for me. Bruno saved my rank for a small green arrow. Good stuff. Obviously, I think the Rashford captainers have obviously ultimately triumphed, but even some of them have been getting red arrows. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how all these different rank points have resulted in red arrows for some, grey or even green arrows for others as well. What is putting you off Kilman? Not anything necessarily. I know we all expected them to keep a clean sheet against Bournemouth. It didn't happen, but it's not really anything necessarily that puts me off him. The way I look at it, even before last week, I said this. In Game Week 25, facing Fulham away, who've been on form, and Liverpool, where is the clean sheet going to come from? Maybe Fulham, a 0-0 draw, but other than that, I don't really see it. And yeah, I'd rather maybe go for a Liverpool defender now that they're showing some form. So Joe Gomez, Trent or Robertson, and even Tarkowski for that home fixture against Villa. So I think it just comes down to that, really. He's a good option, don't get me wrong. He's the best Wolves asset, in my opinion, along with Dawson. But I wouldn't be, it's not really screaming out to me, that many points. I'm not that convinced about Wolves' assets, despite them being a decent team and Lopetegui being a good coach. Is it worth doing Martinelli to Odegaard for a hit? I still think so. I played my free hit. Was that a good idea? I mean, it's a mixture of blanks and doubles. How many times will that happen this season or even in years to go? Yeah, I think it's a decent shout. If you had a lot of players missing with the blanks, then I think it's perfectly reasonable, to be fair. I would actually rather go for Nunez than Gakpo. If he's fit, of course. Thoughts on Ake, KDB and Greenwood for Tarkowski, Salah, Nonto, -4, 11 playing players, including Bueno. Yep, looks pretty good, Singh. I have no problems with any of the transfers. You could also consider Gomez instead of Tarkowski, but yeah, looks really good. You think there'll be a tight ending to the Premier League this season? Well, I think so, but I mean, even last year we had the last game, City were 2-0 down, Liverpool were champions, and then Gundogan was the hero. I mean, it could happen this year, but I think it will go down to the last 3-2 games. I mean, yeah, it's possible, but I don't know with that comment because we literally had it last year. We had a last gasp winner or something like that with Gundogan. But yeah, I think Arsenal and City will go all the way to maybe the last game, but it won't be as emotional as... Actually, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to jinx it. Just forget what I said. Hi, Dylan Worth taking a hit to bring in Tarkowski for Patterson. I'm not sure about a hit, to be quite frank with you. I can see why you're doing it, but I don't think I will do it. Trippier sell price 5.6, buy price 6.1, hard to sell. Yes, and I also back him to do really well after the blank, especially with Bruno Guimaraes coming back. Sell Rashford or start only 10 players? It depends who you sell Rashford to be quite frank with you. If you're selling him to Odegaard or Saka, I would do it. But ultimately, I would bring him back in. Should I use the wild card? I don't know your team, but I think the free hit would be a better chip to use this week, and you can wildcard a few weeks later because you could wildcard into a team that looks really good for Game Week 25, but not necessarily for the blanks and doubles afterwards. So you have to be careful about that. I probably would favour a free hit over a wildcard this week. Yeah, Nunez is injured. He came off of an injury in the game against Newcastle, but not officially ruled out yet. Sell Trippier or Shaw? I'd rather sell Shaw, even though I would back Shaw to outscore Trippier in Game Week 26, but from 27 to the rest of the season, I think Trippier is the better option. Fair play, I'm looking at taking Trips out also. Yeah, same here. And ultimately, even though I think Trippier is a better option than Shaw until Game Week 38, I might actually do the opposite just because I might wildcard in 27 or 28, and I need to think about it in a way where, well, I want to get more points. I think Shaw will get more in Game Week 26. So as a result, I'm going to keep Shaw for now, sell Trippier, and that also enables me to go to Trent or Robertson. There's so many things to think about, but ultimately, who do I prefer? Trippier. Should we sell Mahrez? Tricky one, because if he starts, I think he could do really well. But I think it's a good opportunity, especially going to Odegaard, Saka or Salah. And that's what I'm looking to do myself, going to Mohamed Salah once again. Will you choose Gakpo? Once again, this is why I'm not finalising my moves right now. And, obviously I can't afford Robertson, Salah and Darwin if there's one price rise, which will happen fairly soon. So I could be in a rush to do it, but... yeah, I'm just going to wait until the press conferences later in the week, and once we have more information, that's when I'll decide. But I prefer Darwin. Don't jinx it. As a Liverpool fan, I want Arsenal to win by Game Week 32, 33, but that's not going to happen. Let's be real, especially with Arsenal's recent blip. look, if Arsenal can build another run and show what they did in the first half of the season, then yeah, you'd back them to win the title. But it's a really big if, and there's some tough games coming up. Liverpool away, Newcastle away, not to mention Man City away. Those are 3 really big games. And yeah, even the games like Forest away, that could be tricky. So definitely, I think it's going to go down to the wire, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't. I hope Arsenal can secure it before, but yes, very unlikely. You think people holding Patterson are having false hopes? Yeah, and Coleman obviously scored today, which might be a blow for Patterson owners. This is the thing, though. Would I take a hit to go from Patterson to Tarkowski? I'm not a big fan of that. And I could maybe see Tarkowski, or should I say Patterson, getting 1 start in Game Week 25. But yeah, it's just I don't see Everton defenders getting that many clean sheets in general, or even in Game Week 25, to justify that -4 hit. As I've always said, between Game Weeks 28 to 34, maybe even in 27, I could wildcard, but that is the period I'm looking to use the bench boost free hit and also the wildcard. I've already used the triple captain on Rashford, quite happy with that. Still got 3 chips left, and there you go. Well, because Cucurella plays in Game Week 25 whilst Trippier doesn't. Now, I've always said this, Cucurella's my weak link. He's the one I want to get rid of. But at the same time, it's thinking about the double game week in front of me, and then I can bring Trippier back in anyway, especially if I wildcard in 27 or 28. If Nunez is injured, would you stay off Salah? That's a good question. Not too sure, because if Firmino comes in the side, then I think that could actually help Salah. There's a lot of kind of variables there. If Nunez is injured, I think I'd still go for Salah, potentially. But once again, nothing's set in stone. I might even go without him in the end. The only Chelsea player I'd go for is Kepa and maybe Badiashile. That's it. Say Maximan a good shout if injury-free. He looked really impressive despite the loss against Liverpool. But for Newcastle, I wouldn't go for any attackers, to be quite frank. Nick Pope when he comes back from suspension, Trippier, Botman, any other defender like Cher or Burn, I'd go for a double up. But other than that, no, I wouldn't go for an attacker. Maris to Maddison after 25 looks very solid, and Maddison had a few shots today, had a few moments, but has been really impressive in recent games regardless, and yeah, that's a good transfer. Best 3 defenders to hold till Game Week 38 if budget is no issue. I'd say Trippier still. Trippier, it's a tough one because I think the doubles and blanks will influence this a lot, and we're going to kind of hop off and on some of these defenders, but I would say Trippier, sure, overall, and the other defender would be... It's a tough one. You know what? I'd go for an Arsenal defender, and I think Zinchenko or Gabriel would be quite fine, but that could easily change. Yeah, they could rise, but either way, I'm not in a rush, and I'll change my plans accordingly anyway. I don't want to settle on something just yet. Should I use triple captain this week? I think on Salah, Saka or Odegaard, it looks fairly decent. Even Nketiah could be a decent choice as well, but yeah, it's not a bad shout. I held Havertz and Mudryk this weekend. I probably would sell them at some point, to be fair, even with a good fixture run. Chelsea assets just aren't worth it, especially offensively. My plan is to wildcard 27. Yep. I think someone else said it earlier. I think it was Muntalib, and I think that's a perfectly reasonable plan there. I think Game Week 29 should be the biggest double game week of the season, but it's really close between that and 34. So yeah, I'm also in a kind of similar mindset. I could even free it in 32, depending on how the fixtures kind of lie, but that's a really solid plan. Would you say a -8 with 6 doubles, including Salah, Trent, and triple Arsenal is worth it? Yes, I think it is worth it. You should get a good score in Game Week 25, and you also have a dilemma for the captaincy as well. Do you think selling Shaw to get a double game week player and then move to Dalot later on is worth it? I think it is worth it, but I'd still rather go for Shaw and get him back in if you can. I think he's by far the best United asset, and there could be rotation between Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, especially if United go far in Europa League. Yeah, like I said to you earlier, Kaftan, for me, Trippier and Shaw are 2 of the best defenders to have long term. Other than that, yeah, Trent was someone that crossed my mind. I'm not sure about Reece James though. Far too injury prone. Chelsea are on and off, and you can just go for Kepa or Badiashile anyway. Another one that I really like is actually Stupinian. I think he's a really good choice. Ake to Tarkowski for a hit. Not too sure about that. I think Villa, or should I say Everton, could keep a clean sheet against Villa at home, but is it worth a -4? I'm not so sure, to be honest. If you're not backing Ake to start in Game Week 25, then fair enough, but I'm not a big fan of that hit, to be honest. Bruno to Saka or Gakpo? Saka, definite. I'm not even going to think about that. Saka is by far the better option in my opinion. Nunez is so selfish, takes unnecessary shots. On another note, do you trust Liverpool defence? Yeah, Alisson made some great saves. There was one from the Almiron shot. Obviously, he could have done a bit better, but it was a great save by Alisson regardless. I don't trust Liverpool defence. That's why I wouldn't really go for a double up in Trent and Robertson or something like that. Only for one game week, but that's literally just to target the doubles. So yeah, do I trust Liverpool defence? Not really, but the attacking upside and the fixtures in 25 look reasonable. I saw Mudryk, Joao Felix disappointed. I still would prefer Felix over Mudryk, but Chelsea in general just look off it, and the defenders are the only assets worth going for, or Kepa, of course. What do you think of squeezing in Darwin for Greenwood and Gakpo for De Bruyne? I mean, it's fine. It's good transfers. You should make profit off those moves, but I'd rather go for Salah, to be quite frank. Which sort of players will rise in price going into Game Week 25? Oh, yeah. Salah, Gakpo, Trent, Robertson, Saka, Odegaard. I think those are the options that will go up in price. Gakpo looks like he was more central versus Newcastle. Yes, but even then, you know, I still would prefer Salah, Trent, Robertson, and also not to mention Darwin. Now, look, Gakpo is certainly becoming a better option, and I'm more open to buying him, of course, but I still have my doubts about him, and being subbed off before 60 minutes doesn't really fill me with confidence. You've got Jota and Firmino knocking on the door too, so I don't think he's the best pick, necessarily. Thank you, Jay, as always. I appreciate it. White and Nunez or Trent and Nketiah, says Diogo. That's a good question. Probably Trent and Nketiah. Bruno to Saka or Gakpo? Saka, like we said before, mate. Kanji to Gomez for a -4. I think that's worth it. Especially with Kanji not getting the minutes recently in the Premier League. Tarkowski and Kilman good? Yeah, they're fine. They both have a chance of 1 clean sheet in 25, although I don't think it's that great of a chance. And I wouldn't be surprised if they blanked in both games, of course, but yeah, they're decent options. You know, in terms of defenders, apart from Trent, Robertson, Gomez, and maybe an Arsenal defender, I think Tarkowski and Kilman fit the bill. Selling Trippier short to buy back will cost me big due to the money tied up with them. No, that's fine. Better to keep and take the blank. I mean, the only defender I would really sell Trippier short for with conviction would probably be Trent or Robertson or even Gomez. So I do understand your predicament. I'd rather keep Trippier and Shaw, basically. But another thing to consider is Game Week 28, where United are likely to blank as well. And that could also maybe play a part in you selling Shaw, keeping Trippier, and also targeting this double in front of you. Salah triple captain Game Week 25. I'll be honest, despite Liverpool looking good in the last 2 games, I don't think I'd have enough confidence to triple captain Salah. So it's a good opportunity. And if you really back Salah, go for it, back your gut. But I personally wouldn't do it. Should I get Dalot over Shaw? I still prefer Shaw. I know Dalot's a bonus points machine. Should have scored today as well. But Shaw all day long for me. Gakpo is huge. Buying now for double game week. Yeah, potentially. Look, I could be wrong about him, and I will be doing more research, and also over the week I'll be thinking about this more. But at the moment, my initial reaction is that I think there are 3 or 4, maybe even 5 better players for Liverpool, and not to mention the midfield. I think there are far better options like Saka and Odegaard to buy this week as well. Rashford captain was the only reason I had a green arrow. Yeah, I think that was the reason why I had a red arrow. So fair play to you and all the Rashford captainers. I was talking about in the team selection video as well. And it was a genuine consideration, but I didn't do it. And not too fussed in the end. But of course, more points would have been nice. No, I don't think so, Singh. We went through, I think twice, the price rises and falls. Salah is not expected to rise today. Maybe, you know, late in the week, I'd say Tuesday or Wednesday, but not right now. Yeah, De Bruyne to Salah looks like a great move. I'll talk about this later in the week as well. I'll be keeping both Chelsea players this week. Just need Potter to start them. Fair enough, and good luck with your endeavours. I do like to see, you know, some differentials like that succeed, especially Mudryk. But yeah, at the moment, I just don't really see it. Chelsea are very blunt in attack sometimes. Even when they create a lot of chances, they just don't have the finishes. Sterling himself had 3 or 4 chances in the second half. Didn't take them. Thank you, A and B. I'll see you there, and also in the other videos potentially as well. Thank you, Chat Sport. Should I take a -8 for Saka, Trent and Nunez? Depends which players you bring out ultimately. But do I like the 3 players you're bringing in? Yes, especially Saka. Iwobi or McNeil? Iwobi, but I don't like either that much. What a week. I think, though it's late, I must get to Saka and Odegaard and Salah for a -8. Yeah, and honestly, those are the 3 best midfielders in Game Week 25 on paper. Thank you, Chat Sport. Once again, I appreciate it. Saka, Nunez, Salah, and Tarkowski for a -8. Saka will be for Martinelli and Nunez for Kane. I want to get Tony in 26. Yeah, looks good. The only problem I'd have is getting rid of Kane, but you can't cover everyone, and it looks like a solid plan. I would do it. And also bear in mind with Tony, 2 yellow cards and he's suspended because he's got 8. So bear that in mind, and there is a possibility he's suspended for one of the Game Week 27 matches. So that's something else to weigh up as well. Are Spurs in contention for any upcoming double game weeks that you're aware of? If I'm not mistaken, maybe Game Week 29, but I'm not too sure. I'd probably back them for a double in 34, but I need to double check this, and because there's so many doubles and blanks coming up. But yeah, at the moment, I'm not that convinced about a double very soon, basically. If I'm wrong, correct me in the live chat. I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Stan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Crouchy. Thoughts on Kane, Martinelli, Perisic, Trippier to Darwin if fit, Salah, Trent, Arsenal defender -8. I'm wondering which Arsenal defender you're looking to get. And by the way, really good rank, 6,000 in the world. Really impressive stuff. So yeah, all the transfers look very solid. Yeah, I'd probably do it, even with Perisic having great fixtures. I think Trent's a really good acquisition. Arsenal defender, I probably would say Zinchenko at the moment, but if you just want someone nailed with maybe a bit of attacking threat and no problems whatsoever, then Saliba or Gabriel would be your best bet. But yeah, looks really solid. Would I do the -4? Yes. Shaw for Trent. Let me just get this up once again. And by the way, thank you, Dave, for sorting out the chat. I appreciate it. Thoughts on Patterson return? I think Patterson could get 1 game in the double, but I don't expect him to start both. And if that's enough reason for you to sell him, then yeah, fair enough. But would I sell him to Tarkowski for a hit? I'm not so sure. Shaw for Trent, yeah, that looks like a solid move. Although until the end of the season, despite United's possible blank in 28, I'd rather have Luke Shaw than Trent Alexander-Arnold. What do you think about Walker? That is true. He's used him a lot recently, but I also wouldn't be surprised if with the Champions League coming back, Rico Lewis starts in Game Week 25 against Bournemouth. But I think maybe a bit of a turning point for Rico Lewis versus Walker was the Spurs game, where Rico Lewis was exposed a little bit by Tottenham Hotspur. But yeah, I think Walker might get more game time than we expected. But having said that, I still wouldn't be too sure. And I don't trust Pep Guardiola. Even Riyad Mahrez has been excellent, was benched, City dropped points. And look, yeah, it's just with Pep, you just never know. Haaland's the only one that we kind of have an idea, we have confidence that he's going to start every single week. Also on Botman, KDB and Nketiah to Trent, Saka and Darwin, says Joshua Jones. Looks fantastic. Honestly, I would love to say maybe with some of these are not really that good, but most of these plans that I'm seeing here today look really solid and well thought out. Just bear in mind Darwin is an injured out, so don't do these transfers yet. Wait until later in the week. However, if you can keep Nketiah and also get Saka, I would do that. I would rather have Nketiah than Darwin this week, but my guess is you have 3 Arsenal players, you need to get rid of Nketiah. And if that's the case, Joshua, I would do it. I have 4 blank players. Should I take a hit or use free hit? I'm not sure. So do you have 4 blank players in your starting 11? Because if that's the case and you only have 7 players playing in 25 out of your 50-man squad, then that's an issue. But I'd probably just rather take a hit than use the free hit, to be honest. People making moves so early. Yeah. Honestly, even if I might be priced out of a potentially really good trio of Robertson, Darwin and Salah, without the information, there's no point making the early moves in my case, so I'm not looking to do it. Salah and Gomez or Saka and Trent? It's a close call, but I'd rather go for Saka and Trent. Keep or transfer Mitoma? I like Mitoma still, despite his recent blanks, but if you can go to Odegaard, Saka or Salah, I definitely would get rid of Mitoma. Thank you, JP. I appreciate it. And if you haven't already, you know what to do. Smash the like button, subscribe for new, all of that good stuff. And we're trying to get to 20,000 likes. 20,000 likes? Well, that'd be quite something. 20,000 subscribers and over 300 likes. So let's keep on doing that. I appreciate everyone who has subscribed to the channel as well. And yeah, just thank you for the support. We reached 18,000 in the deadline stream for UCL Fantasy last week, where we had crazy amount of viewers, I think over 1,200 at one point. So thank you to everyone who tuned in and made that possible. Let's keep going through your questions as well. Who for the midfield? I think the best midfielders for Game Week 25 include Saka, Odegaard, Salah, and apart from those 3, that's where things get difficult. I think from Everton, Iwobi's the standout, but I don't really back him. Who Whoever starts between De Bruyne or Mahrez, I think, has a good chance of a haul, but I would not want to be involved in, guessing that and second-guessing Pep. But those three, for sure, are the best midfielders. Will Mahrez play in Game Week 25? 25 is. I'm not sure. Honestly, I have no idea. Maybe because he was benched against Nottingham Forest, he'll start here, but we just don't know with Pep. At the moment, yes, but Brighton have requested for the game to be called off against Palace. Gakpo, yes, he's a decent choice as well, but he's not my favourite. He isn't. Is it worth using the free hit chip this week? In many cases, it is. It's a mixture of blanks and doubles, which is perfect for a free hit. But if you've already got 9, 10, 11 players and you've got most of the key assets, I think a free hit in 28 or 32 or even a double game, it could be better. Yes, that is the plan, Amit. Also, best wildcard team, maybe transfer tips as well, team selection, and that will happen throughout the week. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you've gained something from it. And if you have any more comments or anything to say, really, then let me know. I appreciate it. Who's the go-to transfer this week apart from Salah, worth a -4? I'd probably say Trent. He's the only he's the only defender I'd take a -4 hit for, apart from maybe Robertson, Joe Gomez, and maybe one or two others. But yeah, Trent's a decent one. Odegaard and Saka. If you don't have them, especially in Saka's case and his recent form, I'd go for it. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to do it. And my current guess is that he's going to start against Bournemouth. I'm not so sure, though. Martinelli to Salah and Tony to Nketiah for 2 free transfers, but I have the exact money and will price out if they increase. I get your situation. That could happen with one of my transfer plans as well. Would I do it? Yeah, I think I would. It's risky, though. Bear that in mind, there's always a risk with early transfers, but I would do it. So yeah, hopefully you got that, Subham Roy. JC Snooks puts his team out. 2 free transfers, what should I do? Goalkeepers are fine. I wouldn't make a goalkeeper transfer necessarily unless you had nothing else to do. So you've got how many blank players? You've got Shaw, Trippier, you've got Rashford, and Tony. So a bit similar to me. You've got 4 blank players. So what I would maybe look to do in your case is get rid of Shaw. And how much do you have in the bank? That's what I'd want to know, because one thing that could really work out well for you is getting in Gomez, Trent, or Robertson in for sure. And you could also make a move in the midfielder attack. So either Mahrez or Tony to be sold. I'd keep Rashford if you can, and one of Shaw or Trippier, depending on your preference, in your team, and you can just bench them this week. So that shouldn't be a big issue. So yeah, I definitely would do that. I'd bring in a Liverpool defender or even Tarkowski, Kilman. Take your pick there, Jesus Snooks, and bring them in for either Shaw or Trippier. My preference would be selling Shaw. And I would maybe do Tony out for Darwin Núñez as well. It just depends on your funds, though, because maybe you don't have the funds to do both of those. Kane, Shaw to Felix and Trent. Look, if I were to go for any Chelsea attack, it would be Felix, but Chelsea still don't impress me. They don't fill me with confidence. Even when they create chances, I don't know if they're going to score. So I wouldn't get Joao Felix in necessarily. If you wanted to get a forward in this week, it would be Darwin Núñez, Nketiah, someone of that ilk. Even Watkins or Iheanacho, I'd rather go for those than Joao Felix, who's a decent option, but Chelsea need to do much more for me to consider Felix and buy him in my team. Thank you, Susan Boyle. What a name. Is 2 Liverpool okay? Yeah. Honestly, my preference would be 2. I think that's the best, in terms of normal transfers and hits. If you're not free hitting or anything like that, I think 2 Liverpool is the best number. Would you pick Tarkowski or Gomez? Probably Joe Gomez, assuming he starts both, which will be the big doubt, but I think he will. Play Watkins in my free hit? Yes, I think if I were to go for free forwards this week, it would be Haaland, Darwin Núñez, and Nketiah. But yeah, Watkins is a decent choice. -4 Gakpo, Gomez, Pickford on a free hit or free hit. I would go for the -4. The only reason I'd go for a free hit is if you don't have Salah and Saka, and maybe you're missing 2 or 3 other good players that you want to have in Game Week 25. But otherwise, just do the -4. At this point, I'm convinced Son and Martinelli deliver better when they come on from the bench. Son, yes. He's got 4 goals from the bench this season against West Ham and Leicester. With Martinelli, it's only happened once, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true, Martinelli. And also, a big part of his goal was Emi Martinez coming out, trying to get the glory and get the equaliser. But Son, yes, I think that's a really good shout. Thoughts on Kane for the next few game weeks? I still like him. He's the second best premium in the game for a reason. And Spurs have great fixtures in the long term. So even if they don't have doubles, as long as they don't have too many blanks like in 28 or something, no concerns with me whatsoever. And I'd be happy to keep him. But I think the main kind of argument to selling Kane is to fund that move to Salah or even Trent, or maybe even both in Game Week 25. And that's the only reason I'd sell Kane. Which team might blank in Game Week 28? Man United are very likely. That's one of them. Let me actually bring up an image I had. So at the moment, Game Week 28, Man United and Brighton could blank. Tottenham, Southampton could blank. Man City's another one, and as a consequence, West Ham is another one that could blank in 28. Leicester, and if Leicester blank, of course, then Brentford will as well. Leeds and Wolves. Liverpool, Fulham is still in the balance too. Those are all the possible blanks for you. Arsenal, Palace will definitely have a fixture. Aston Villa, Bournemouth as well. Chelsea, Everton, Nottingham Forest and Newcastle will all have a fixture. That's why Watkins is becoming a really popular target as well. Good fixtures coming up. Doesn't blank in 28 and he's in great form. So hopefully you got that. Let me know if you did. If not, I will repeat. Thank you, JC Snooks. I appreciate it. And let me know maybe in the future streams too if you have any other plans as well. I don't think I'd captain Trent. I think he's a good option for this double, but I don't have enough confidence in Liverpool defensively to captain one of their defenders, as good as Trent is. Have 12 games to be played in my current 25 team and a free transfer. Should I get Fernandes to Salah and Botman to Gomez? Yes. If I had to prioritise one transfer, it would be Fernandes to Salah, but both look good. Do you think Gomez is nailed or Matip will see his way back? It's possible, but I think Gomez starts both games. Do I see him being nailed beyond Game Week 25? Not necessarily. Especially when Konate's back as well. As an Arsenal fan, I want to see Trossard over Nketiah. I completely agree. I said this before the Villa game. I wanted to see Zinchenko in the midfield potentially, or even Fabio Vieira. I think Xhaka needs a rest. Put Tierney as the left back in my opinion, because Zinchenko has been targeted a little bit on the left-hand side and also sometimes been a bit too careless in possession. And not to mention, I think Trossard, Saka, Martinelli front three. Nketiah's been misfiring. He has had moments, setting up Odegaard for that unbelievable miss. And Nketiah has been working his socks off, but in terms of his finishing and his overall play, he has left a lot to be desired. So I would make those changes. I agree with you. Trippier for Trent. I already have Salah, Odegaard and Saka. Yes, I think the only defenders I'd really consider selling Trippier for is a Liverpool one, and Trent fits the bill. I think that looks fine. If you can get rid of Shaw instead of Trippier, though, I'd do that instead. Shaw out for Robertson or Trippier out for Trent? It's a good question. It's a really close call. I think I'd rather do Trippier out for Trent, and then in Game Week 27-28, you can wildcard, bring Trippier back in, but just bear in mind, you're going to lose a lot of value in him. The way I see it, in 26, United have the better fixture and also a better chance of a clean sheet, but from 27 to 38, I think Newcastle, defenders in particular, are better assets than the likes of Shaw even. I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much for the kind words. Ian says, would you do Mahrez to Saka, White to Gomez from -8, also doing Salah in? Good question. Would I do it? Yes. And once again, I'd only get rid of White if that's your only way to get Saka because you already have a triple up and all of that jazz. So yeah, I would do it. Start Nonto or Bueno? Probably Bueno, but it's a close call. Which three clubs do you think will be relegated? I probably need to look at the Premier League table just to refresh my memory. I know West Ham are now in the bottom three again, and all the results around them have not gone their way, so they're in big trouble right now. Even those below them got the wins, so they're closing the gap. I still think Southampton will go down, and that's something I said even going into this season. I thought going into this campaign as well that Brentford could be in trouble, but they've been fantastic. Fair play to them. So bottom three for me, I still think Southampton, Bournemouth, and I think the third one, I think it'll be Leeds at the moment. And look, if Everton still had Lampard, I thought they were in real trouble. But with Sean Dyche, I think he will keep them up. So yeah, my bottom three would be Southampton, Leeds, and Bournemouth. I think West Ham will probably make a managerial change very soon, maybe even today or tomorrow, and they'll have a manager bounce. They've got some good players as well. So yeah, I think that will be the bottom three. Close call though. It's a tough one. Even the likes of Leicester and Wolves aren't safe still. KDB and Rashford to Salah and Gakpo would own 8 double Gameweek players as well. That looks pretty solid. And you get to keep Kane. That looks really good. And you can always bring Rashford back in 26 or 27, or even after blank Gameweek 28 as well. It's just that if you do go about Rashford in 26 or 27, you could be in big trouble because the form he's in, he can score against anybody. Any thoughts on McNeil at Everton on set pieces? That's really the only kind of big appeal about him. He's a good crosser of the ball, arguably their best crosser, but Iwobi for me is the best FPL midfielder for Everton. Yeah, if you have Felix, I probably would keep him. If you can go to Nketiah or Darwin for free, then yeah, I think those are better options. But yeah, I'd probably keep him. Kane plus Bueno plus Trippier to Nunez, Salah and Robertson. Yeah. Despite, obviously, my thoughts on Kane and Trippier's assets, with the blanks in mind and all of that, yeah, it looks really solid. Free Arsenal and Bueno, I prefer to hold one free transfer for double Gameweek Brighton, Brentford and Gameweek 28. Just bear in mind, Brighton could lose their double because they have rail strikes in 27, and Brighton themselves are asking for the game to be called off against Crystal Palace. So the likes of Mitoma, Estupinian might lose their double in 27, and not only that, they could blank in Gameweek 28. The same goes for Manchester United. So you have to be careful with that at the moment. I understand your plans, and it's very sensible, but the Brighton double Gameweek could be lost. Thoughts of Darwin, Gakpo and Gomez for Bruno, Mitrovic and either Shaw or Botman. Also, what's your view on who to pick out of Shaw and Botman? It's a good question you asked there. So with Shaw and Botman, I'd rather have Shaw. And even though with Newcastle defence, the kind of main way to gain something is to have a Botman or a Shaw or a Burn or a Share alongside a Trippier because he's so highly owned. Having said that, Shaw has the bonus points, the attacking potential, and Man United have been absolutely excellent recently. So I'd rather have Shaw out of those two. But if it was Trippier or Shaw, I'd still rather have Trippier until the end of the season. So that's a close call, and it might seem a bit contradictory, but I just think Trippier is far above the likes of Botman and the rest of FPL assets that I would go for him over even Shaw. Also, Darwin, Gakpo, and Gomez for those three, yeah, looks really good, and I probably would sell Botman. And also bear in mind, another reason why I would sell Botman is because in Gameweek 26, Shaw has the better fixture. I'd back him for more points. And you can always wildcard in 27 or just a bit after that and then bring in Botman back in for their good fixture run until 33, I think it is. Martial to Tony flop for me. Should have done Mbeumo in hindsight. I'm not so sure about that. I still would prefer Tony out of those two. And the only concern with Tony is the yellow cards heading into 27. Thoughts on a -8? Depends on the players, but you know, if it involves the likes of Saka and Salah, then yeah, I think a -8 would be justified already. I can only field 9 players next game. We go Kepa versus Kane and Castagna and White as only 2 defenders. Yeah, that's not ideal. I'm going to have something similar, especially if I keep Kane. And it's not really what you want to see, these conflicts. You're going to bound to be losing points unless something miraculous happens. But yeah, look, I think as long as you can get 9, 10, I think that's fine. You don't need to go all out for 11. Do you see Manchester as contenders for the title now? I mean, look, United have a chance. They're only 5 points behind, but also bear in mind Arsenal have a game in hand, and United have some tough games coming up. And with Liverpool reaching form, I would not be surprised if Liverpool won that game against United. And there's a few other tough games coming up where I think United could slip up. Even just recently, they slipped up at home to Leeds. And they're over-relying a bit on Rashford, in my opinion. So, look, they definitely have a chance, but for me, it's between Arsenal and Man City. But let's wait and see. In a week or two's time, things could look much different, and it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. Should I go for Salah and Gomez or Gakpo and Trent? Salah and Gomez, in my opinion, although it's quite close and both duos are good. I don't think so. The only reason I do Nunez in for Kane for a -4 is if it involves Salah or Saka or even Trent. Yeah, Trent is an injury doubt, but he's not completely ruled out yet. Bear that in mind. I can give you the latest updates word for word. According to Jurgen Klopp, let me just get that up on screen, or I'll get it up and read it out. I don't necessarily need to get it up. So let's see. So yeah, the latest, all we know is that it's a shoulder injury. He's at 25% in terms of FPL, and he's just currently being assessed. So look, we don't know anything yet. There's a lot of injuries that we still need to know more about, and all these scans will determine a lot. But yeah, for the time being, it's not looking good, but I would expect him to be back for Gameweek 25. That's just kind of a gut feeling I have. Either way, if you can, wait until close to the deadline, and we should have the press conferences, and then you can make an informed decision. Should I sell Patterson? I probably would. Especially for a Trent. even you could say Arsenal defender, Tarkowski, Kilman. From -4, it becomes a bit trickier, but ultimately I think I would. Thank you very much, Living Legend. I appreciate it. Good night to you as well. I have double Newcastle United and Tony blanking, 1 free transfer and 0.5 million. Preliminary plan would probably be Botman to a Fulham defender. That's not bad at all. And honestly, I haven't mentioned Fulham enough, but that's 3 clean sheets in a row. Leno's looking like one of the best goalkeepers in the game. And you've got the likes of Ream looking good as well. Tete. So, yeah, I think that's a fair shout as well. Keep Martinelli or swap to Saka. I'd swap to Saka. But free hit looks like it makes a lot of sense, but I'll wait for some news on squads. Yeah, honestly, a free hit does make sense, and it always has done. But the closer we get to the deadline, the more open-minded I am to using it myself. Once again, Leaf, I wouldn't do it myself unless you are doing it to fund Salah or Saka or something like that. Yeah, United have a lot of games as well, but then again, you know, City have the Champions League, Arsenal have the fewest games, but they still... Look, it goes both ways. When you're in other competitions but you win, especially against Barcelona and you win a Carabao Cup, for example, that boosts your confidence, and United are the most informed team in England right now. So, yeah, it can work both ways. I don't think United have the squad to deal with everything, and they might slip up in one of these cups or in the Premier League itself. But ultimately, yeah, that's a good point, Arthur, and I can see what you mean. Mahrez to Gakpo, for free, yes. Would I do it for a -4? Not so sure, I probably wouldn't. Should I keep Havertz as a differential? I would probably sell, to be honest. Look, Havertz can sometimes have these decent hauls in him, but they're very rare. They're few and far between. I'd go to Nketiah, Darwin Núñez if he's fit. In his place, there's also Jota, Firmino to consider, but also the main ones like Haaland, Tony beyond Game Week 25, and not to mention Harry Kane himself. And there's Watkins, who could be a really good shout for you. I think they're all better than Havertz, so ultimately, I'd sell him. Will it be fine to go with 10 players this week? Yes. Honestly, that's fine. More than fine. If you have Kane, or not even just Kane, if you've got Salah, Saka, and most of the key options, you're fine. Should I free hit if after a -4 I have 10 outfield players with lots of doubles? No, I would just stick with the -4 and do that instead. Once again, Victor, I'd sell him. I don't know what else I need to say there. Hi, Dylan, would you start Patterson if you had him? That is a good question. I think I'd start Walker. I think Patterson might get 1 start, but I don't see him starting both, especially after Coleman scoring. -4 for Gomez, says Susan Boyle. Depends who you get rid of. But yeah, I do like it. Gomez is someone I'm looking at as well. Oh, I've seen that Liverpool have a double versus 2 teams that like to concede. That free hit I just mentioned makes even more sense now. Yeah, that is true. Obviously, just a few weeks ago, Liverpool got battered by Wolves, but it's funny. Football's a funny game, and Liverpool now looking in form. Wolves a bit shaky with a kind of shocking loss at home to Bournemouth. So, yeah, that is a good point. Let's wait and see. But I'm looking to get in Salah and maybe even one more Liverpool attacker as well. Maybe even Gakpo, despite potentially putting people off in this stream as well. I think I'm making transfers right after the Liverpool-Real Madrid game. That's fair enough. And I think most people will be cautious. So the price rises won't happen until the Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe Thursday. But sometimes people jump the gun. So there's not a guarantee. And FPL, especially in terms of prices and falls, can be manipulated by FPL headquarters, it seems. So you're never safe completely. But I understand what you mean. I definitely wouldn't, make transfers involving Liverpool players before that game because an injury could happen or something else like that. Considering the minutes risk, would you change Mahrez for anyone for a -4? Yes, to Salah. But because you only have 0.4 million in the bank, apart from Saka, Odegaard, I'd say maybe Gakpo would be the best midfielder to get for a -4 in Game Week 25. Do I think Gakpo is a great midfielder to have until the end of the season? Not really. But for this double, he's fine, and he could be a good short-term solution for you. I have made preview videos before, but yeah, I'm not too sure because maybe in terms of reception, they're not that popular, that well received, and people want to see, free hit, wildcard videos, transfer tips, and team selection. But yeah, look, I'm always open to new ideas, new forms of content as well. But this week, I think the main plan is to do team selection, free hit, wildcard, transfer tips, and then the deadline stream and all of that as well. I'd say so. If there's ever a time to sell Newcastle players, it's now. But bear in mind, Newcastle have good fixtures from 27 onwards as well. Ward or Kepa next week? Kepa. Not expecting either to keep a clean sheet, but Kepa's more likely. Though Foden was bad taking decisions in last game, Mahrez is now becoming a headache to keep. Yeah, I agree. And look, Mahrez could do really well against Bournemouth and, might that transfer could bite us, basically, getting rid of him. But I'm still looking to do it, especially for a Salah. Chances for United to double in Game Week 26. I'm not too sure about that. I haven't heard of any doubles in 26, to be honest. I don't think that will be the case. I might be wrong, and maybe there's something, an update that I haven't seen. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think that is too likely at the moment. But if I'm wrong, be sure to correct me. I would appreciate that. But yeah, that's not really something I've heard about. Blank Game Week 28 is obviously very likely with United, so it's kind of difficult to buy them in right now. And also, for those of us with Rashford, sure, it's difficult to depart, or to sell them, but sometimes we have to. De Bruyne, Mitrovic and Patterson to Salah, Darwin and Tarkowski will have 0.8 million in the bank. Simple answer is yes, but keep an eye on Darwin's injury situation and also how Liverpool fare against Real Madrid in midweek. Yes, it is Eduardinho. A mixture of blanks and doubles always fares well for a free hit, but if you can get to 9, 10, 11 players, a solid squad, without using a free hit, then you could just save it for another week, like 28, 32, or a double. Who's the best replacement for Pope? I'd say Kepa or Leno at the moment. Now, after this blank, I think Raya's another one. He's been so consistent all season. But right now, I'd say Kepa or Leno. I think they're the two best goalkeepers right now. If you want a double Game Week 25 goalkeeper, then maybe Pickford or Jose Sarr could be to your liking. But I wouldn't want Pickford beyond Game Week 25, to be quite frank with you. So honestly, I just keep it simple and go for either Kepa or Leno. So thank you very much to everyone for tuning in today. Probably a bit of a short one. Well, I say short one. It's still been 2 hours. We've been going at it for quite some time. Is there anything else I want to show you? I think I've shown you everything that we need to. We talked about price rises. I showed you my points for this week, although maybe the points haven't been updated. Are there any bonus points to think about? Yeah, Rashford got the bonus points here. So 15 for him overall. It looks like. Let's see. 2 bonus points. Let's see. Yeah, he got the 2 bonus points. Yeah, it's all done. Yeah, kind of regretting not captaining him in the end. That was the big kind of difference maker for me to get another red arrow, but so be it. I'm looking at selling Mahrez myself. You don't need to sell him, and there is a chance he starts in Game Week 25, but if that is your way to get Salah, I think it's still an easy sell, and it will pay off, despite him starting against Bournemouth potentially and doing really well as well. Thank you, Goldhead. I appreciate that. Which Liverpool assets to get for Game Week 25? I think that's a really good trio. Yeah, I think that would be kind of an ideal one, basically. Robertson's the other one that I'd also put in the mix, and Joe Gomez. Gakpo's fine as well. Those are definitely the 6 standouts, but I think that might be the best 3. Just 1 in each position. I wouldn't go for a double up in Liverpool defence beyond Game Week 25, so ultimately, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Eduardinho. That is the best one. I'd put Salah first, Trent second, and Nunez third right now. Do you see Nketiah starting both games, or Trossard could come in? I think he could come in, but I think Nketiah starts both. I don't think Arteta will play Trossard in the middle yet, or Martinelli up front, although it is possible. No worries, Eduardinho, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, same here, Goldhead, or it will be Salah. Odegaard's always a consideration. Even this week, despite missing a big chance, he got all 3 bonus points. That's what he has over Saka. But at the same time, yeah, I think Saka, Odegaard or Salah are the standouts, and that's what I'm looking to do with my armband as well. And I need to get it right, especially after this week. Saka for me. Darwin isn't a bad choice, but I think Saka has been far more consistent, and he's also more likely to get a double-digit return, in my opinion. And I'd still fancy Arsenal to do pretty well offensively in these 2 games, despite their recent struggles. But it's an interesting one. If you want to go for Darwin, why not? But also bear in mind he's an injury, well, not injury prone, he's an injury doubt heading into 25. And I'd still go for Saka anyway. Midfielder, midfielders always have an advantage over forwards anyway. So yeah, Saka for me. The Liverpool guys hurt me in this game week, but you can't cover everyone. And you can bring them in this week, especially with 2 free transfers. We've always had something that's hurt us this week or in other weeks. It is what it is, but you can't cover all bases all the time. I'm not so sure, Tasby. I thought he would in 24. He didn't, so I honestly don't know. Salah or Saka is the best captain. It's close. My current inclination is towards Saka, but I am open-minded to Salah. So right now, the way I'd rank it is Saka first, Salah second, and Odegaard third. But it's really close. I think it's one of the toughest captaincy decisions we've had in quite some time. Thank you, Bala. I appreciate it. I'll see you very soon as well. Saka was so dangerous as Villa second half. That's what's swaying me. And also, he was playing with a bit of a knock. He got one in the first half, I think. And he was struggling a little bit. It looked like he could be subbed off at one point. So yeah, he's been very impressive. Even when Arsenal are playing poorly, Saka's the one player you can rely on to drag Arsenal out of the mud. Yeah, I can see what you mean, cannon fodder. Maximum 1 star out of the 2, in my opinion, so it is worth selling him. I only have White and Patterson playing next week, have Botman, Shaw and Trippier. What do? I would definitely sell one of your defenders, ideally Botman, but maybe selling Shaw Trippier will give you the funds to go for a Trent Robertson, which will be more beneficial for you in Game Week 25. So what would I do? Sell Botman if you can. I'd go to a Liverpool defender, but I'm also not going to forget Tarkowski and Kilman. They're still decent choices, not to mention Cody, Mikalenko, and also Dawson. Those are all decent double game week players as well. But if I had to pick one double game week player or defender, it probably would be Trent Alexander-Arnold. I struck lucky by captaining Rashford this week. Shame I didn't have Fernandes too. He played really well. Yeah, that is saying it lightly. 9 chances created was absolutely insane. Up to 120k now. In Game Week 7, I was around 6 million. Now, that is a really impressive rank rise. Much more impressive than my one, which I've been banging on about recently. Fair play, Eduardinho. Hopefully you keep on rising into the rank you want. And yeah, Fernandes was exceptional. Rashford has been so consistent recently. And he's definitely one to consider for the captaincy in the weeks to come, when he's not blanking, of course. So in 26 and 27, I think Rashford could definitely be the one. And it's kind of frustrating because even before Game Week 25 and 24, I was earmarking Rashford captaincy in Game Week 25, but I didn't go through with it, unfortunately. Trent, Robertson, Van Dijk, he's just come back from into the starting 11 against Newcastle, and Gomez. That's why I've been mentioning Gomez a lot. Konate is still injured, and Matip is available, but in his last start, I believe, well, he got the clean sheet in his last start, but the one before that, he scored the own goal against Wolves. Yeah, Van Dijk came back and he got the 90 minutes. Van Dijk and Gomez looks like the main starting centre-back partnership for Liverpool right now. But Matip could definitely come in, and you could see him coming in for Joe Gomez, especially with a crucial Champions League game coming up this week and also in a few weeks' time as well. Would you take a -4 hit to go from Trippier to Robertson? Already got Trent, but he's the only Liverpool asset I have. If you have an 11 already, I wouldn't. But I'd rather do another transfer instead and keep Trippier and maybe get Salah in midfield, or even Darwin Núñez potentially, just because I'm just not too sure about double up in Liverpool defence beyond Game Week 25. Obviously, look, if you just want to play what's in front of you and you want more Liverpool players, then fair enough, it's a decent transfer. But looking to 26, 27 and beyond, I'd rather keep Trippier and not take the -4, personally. Approximately how much money do you earn? Well, I'm not going to disclose details. It's all just It's all a hobby, basically, but I've earned a fair amount, I guess. I'm quite happy with it. My rank is 15k. Thanks, Dylan. You're brilliant. I appreciate that, Tasby. Thank you very much, mate. Obviously, sometimes our opinions are off the mark. I'm not always going to get it right, but I appreciate that. De Bruyne plus the Silva plus Ben White to Salah, Gakpo and Trent. Yeah, looks really good. Yeah, I'd go for it. Gakpo's not my favourite midfielder, but you know, apart from the kind of obvious three of Saka, Odegaard and Salah, for this game week, I'd say Gakpo is 4th or 5th in terms of best midfielders. So it looks good. If Darwin is fit, who would you prefer getting in, Trent or Darwin? Trent still. Look, it could all be circumstantial because you might want to keep Trippier and Shaw, and also you want to make a forwards transfer. So there's always a few different variables, but I'd rather have Trent. Captain Salah or Saka? At the moment, Saka, but we'll talk about this later in the week, and I may change my mind about this. It's really close. Okay, cheers. I've got 10.5 playing Bueno. Oh, 10.5 playing. Yeah, I get what you mean. And Bueno could get a start here in this double. Will he start both? Not so sure. Yeah, man, this week's transfer plans are going to be a headache, and I don't enjoy those. Yeah, tell me about it. And already had plenty of these kind of captaincy headaches already, especially in Game Week 24. There's a reason for free hit and reasons to hold it for another time. Exactly. It's a really interesting week. It should be, well, let's see what everyone does. You know, there should be a bit of variety finally in terms of chip strategies and stuff, whether people play the free hit, also in terms of the captaincy. There's so many things that could definitely change, and also our transfer plans, which 2 or 3 Liverpool players do we bring in? So it's a bit interesting, actually. I spent free hit when the Queen passed away, so another problem. Yeah, I've always said this, you know, because there's always these common questions. Should I free hit now? I always recommend to save it for later in the season, but then again, everyone's team is different, and, you know, maybe the free hit worked well for you. Maybe it didn't, but yeah, it's kind of difficult to find something that fits everyone, basically. Gakpo, Núñez and Tarkowski -12, or Salah and Patterson -8. I mean, Patterson is just not someone I think is worthwhile, and as much as I like Salah, I think the -12 option looks better. I'll talk more about this in the team selection, but ultimately I'm looking to bring in Salah and or Trent, and that would require the likes of Mahrez making way, one of Trippier, Shaw, and potentially Harry Kane if I were to get in Salah and Trent. So it's a bit complicated. It might not even be Trent coming in. It could be Robertson or Gomez. There's a lot that could be up in the air. But basically, Liverpool defenders on my radar, Tarkowski/Kilman, and Salah in the midfield. Is it good Mahrez for Gakpo? I think so. If Mahrez starts, I wouldn't be surprised if he outscored Gakpo, but that's the big if. Is he going to start? And I just don't know. Shaw to Trent or Robertson or Tony to Nunez? I would rather do Shaw to Trent if you can. Hi Dylan, is Mahrez playing next game week? I don't know, honestly. My gut feeling is that he will. I said this even before game week 24. I don't see Mahrez starting against Forest and Bournemouth. So because he's benched recently, yesterday, I think he'll start the next game, but it might not work that way, and I could be completely wrong again. -4 for Salah, Trent, and Gakpo, but only for game week 25-26 as I'm wildcarding 27. Yeah, looks really good. I'd go for it, and I also might be in a similar predicament and similar mindset to you, and that's why I'm more open-minded to getting 2 or 3 Liverpool players in right now. What are you looking at, Dylan? Because a free hit would make sense for your team on paper. Yeah, it could make sense. Once I devise the best free hit team, best wild card, that will inform my decision for the team selection as well. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility, but I'm more likely at the moment to take a -4 or use free transfers. Aside from double gaming players, what are your thoughts on Bowen against Nottingham? Not really that. No, I know Bowen did really well a few weeks ago against Everton, but ever since then, West Ham haven't really built on that. They had a few decent performances, a draw against Chelsea, a win in the FA Cup, but looked really poor today. And Forest have been decent, let's not forget. I know Forest tend to do well at home rather than away, but I just wouldn't back Bowen for a big return against Forest at the moment. So I'd rather go elsewhere, to be honest. If I wanted to go for a single game week player, maybe Watkins could be on the radar. Someone showing a bit of form and with good fixtures as well. Doesn't blank in 28 as well. So I'm not really thinking about Bowen, to be honest. I still have Patterson. Should I hold him? He's come back from an injury. He played for the under-21s recently, but I would probably sell him. I don't see him starting both games in 25, which is the main reason you'd want to keep him. That's just my opinion, though. Thank you, Cannon Fodder. I appreciate that. Really kind words. And yeah, I'll have a flight in the morning. Safe flight. I appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you very soon as well. So take care, and good luck for Game Week 25 too. If Darwin gets confirmed no start, which other forward would you put on the watch list? Watkins would be definitely up there. Aston Villa have some good fixtures, and they also don't blank in 28 confirmed, which I really like as well. So Watkins would definitely be up there. Iheanacho. I'm looking to keep Tony at the moment and bench him. So I'm not really looking, but if I were, probably one of those two at the moment. So yeah, thank you to everyone for tuning in for this 2-hour stream. It just flies by, really. It's just a lot of fun. So thank you, everyone, for making this a really positive discussion. A lot of interesting ideas. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe for new. We're trying to get to 25 subscribers. Let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes. I'm going to have a quick look now to see what we're at, because I actually haven't been able to check all streams. So we are at... Let's see, we are at over 135, so thank you. Let's try to get this stream to 150 likes. That would be greatly appreciated. And we still have over 100 people watching. And we'll be doing some streams and videos very soon for double/blank gaming 25. More UCL fantasy content on the way. There might even be a stream talking about the substitutions. Of course, I'll be interacting with you in the community tab. Also patrons and channel members as well. So be sure to keep an eye out for all of that. My midfield is Odegaard, Rashford, Mahrez, Saka, Andreas. Probably Mahrez for me, and I would bench Rashford, Zvonimir. So yeah, Mahrez for Salah, and I'd also maybe make another move to fund that. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. Same with you. I also always appreciate seeing you here, Alex. Good night to you. Enjoy the rest of the week, and let's see what happens in Game Week 25. Havertz replacements who? So apart from the obvious ones, I would say Watkins or Iheanacho would be up there, and in 26 or 27 I'd highly recommend Ivan Toney for sure. But yeah, Watkins or Iheanacho would be at the front of that kind of list. And if you want to target Game Week 25 specifically, you can't forget Nketiah and Nunez, of course, as well. So any one of those four would be fine. So long term, basically, I'd go for Watkins or Iheanacho. And if you want someone for 25, I'd go for Nketiah personally if you have the Arsenal spot available. So thank you to everyone. Be sure to check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the channel memberships, the Twitter and Instagram, Dylan RCM, and much, much more. And you can also become a member or channel member or patron for as cheap as £3 per month. Be sure to check it out. You can also get early access to videos and access to all my team reveals. I'm updating all of my UCL fantasy substitutions as well as we speak. As soon as I do it, I keep all of you updated as well. So thank you to everyone. Take care. Enjoy the football. If you've got any more questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below and I'll get to them very soon. So until then, I'll see you in the next stream and also in the next few videos. There's going to be a lot coming your way. So be sure to check them out. Take care.